Chapter 201. The Test Reporting to Xianxia. This is Xianxia, a young, outstanding teacher of Hongqian Academy, Liu Ling introduced. Even though Elder Qian no longer taught him, Liu Ling still called him teacher out of habit. He who teaches me for a day, I regard as a father for life. In this world, the relationship between a teacher and a student was uncompromisable. Even master teachers did not dare violate this sacred principle. Xianxia. Elder Qian shook his head impassively. He asked doubtfully, "Isn't the outstanding teacher from Hongqian Academy Lu Zun?" Lu Laoshi is outstanding, but Zhong Laoshi does not, in any way, pale in comparison. In fact, there are certain aspects in which he surpasses Lu Laoshi. Recalling the situations that he saw in Hongqian Academy over the past 2 days, Liu Ling couldn't help but compliment Xianxia. He had merely taught his students for slightly more than 10 days, in addition to being out of school so often, and yet every single one of his students experienced massive growth and their prowess escalated explosively. Putting aside normal teachers, even the 3 of them finds it hard to achieve such a feat surpasses Lu Laoshi. A gleam flashed across Elder Qian's eyes. To be complimented by you like that, he must be indeed capable and qualified to take a seat here. However, it isn't that easy to get to drink my tea. At the very least, he has to first pass my test. Test? Xianxia glanced at Elder Qian. I am only here to accompany Liu Shi and the others. I have no intention of drinking your tea. Besides, do you believe your tea to be some immortal elixir or what? To think that I will need to be tested to drink it? Xianxia was about to reject the idea when Liu Ling turned to look at him excitedly with gleaming eyes. This is great. Xianxia Laoshi, this is an excellent opportunity. You must make full use of it. Opportunity. It's merely drinking tea. What opportunity is there to speak of? It is the dream of countless cultivators to drink the tea made by Qian Laoshi. Seeing that Xianxia didn't comprehend what was going on, Liu Ling explained with a smile. You might not know, but Qian Laoshi is extremely particular with his tea leaves and brewing method. The tea on the table right now is known as spirit calming tea. There aren't more than 3 of its tea trees in the entire Xianxia kingdom. They grow at the top of the snow mountain, White Pearl Peak, and are nourished by the sun more than 16 hours a day. As such, when used to boil tea, the aroma lingers without dissipating. It is one thing for there to be limited tea trees, but there is a requirement for the picking of tea leaves as well. It mustn't be too young or too old. Only leaves picked at exactly the 6th hour after the flowers of the tea trees bloom will carry the slight fragrance of flora. Accompanied with the cold weather at White Pearl Peak, drinking the tea made from these tea leaves is incomparably pleasurable. A tea tree doesn't already bear many leaves. In addition to the strict requirements for its picking, you can imagine the minute amount of tea leaves that are harvested. In fact, I can tell you that the annual production of such tea leaves in Xianxia Kingdom totals up to only around 3 taels or so. Xianxia was astonished. No wonder the other party regards the matter so highly, even conducting a test to see if the person is qualified to drink the tea. Judging by how valuable the tea leaves are, it is worth the effort to take the test. Of course, if it were just the limited harvest, one can only say that the tea leaves are precious. It wouldn't matter to a cultivator whether he drank it or not because it wouldn't be considered as an opportunity. A cultivator values his cultivation the most. Regardless of how fragrant a tea is, it doesn't matter to them whether they drink it or not. There is no need for them to spend such a huge price just to satisfy their cravings. The reason why the tea leaves are so important is that of the use of the tea. Spirit calming tea has the effect of calming down one's mind. If normal people were to consume it, it would allow them to sleep better, ease their fatigue, and boost their spirit. On the other hand, if cultivators were to drink it, it will allow them to reach the level of heart of tranquil water for a short moment. Even though it is just a momentary state, and one will automatically descend from it after a moment, it allows one to experience the sensation of being in that condition. This will prove to be an important assistance to actually reach that state in the future. Liu Shi continued, of course, just the tea leaves itself aren't enough. It has to be accompanied with Qian Laoshi's consummate brewing skills to bring out such effects. Allow one to reach heart of tranquil water for a short moment. Xianxia's eyes widened in shock. Only when one reaches the heart of tranquil water can he absolutely concentrate in whatever he does, totally unaffected by the surroundings or emotions. Take for example the two apothecaries, Meng Yang and Xianxia, whom Xian met during the pill debate. While forging the tranquil heart pill, they infused their own emotions and physical state into the pill by accident, causing the pill to change and lose its original function. The reason why such accidents occur is that the person has yet to achieve a breakthrough in his will of mind. When one reaches will of mind 2 dan heart of tranquil state, even if one is plagued with negative emotions, he can still maintain a tranquil state of mind and forge a perfect tranquil heart pill. The guild leader of the blacksmith guild, Luo Chong, has achieved such a level. It was due to him overeating the dragon-scaled prawns that he was unable to calm his mind, eventually failing to successfully forge any equipment. Many cultivators do not realize the importance of will of mind and think that it is absolutely useless. However, that's not the case. In order to achieve a breakthrough to Fighter 8 Dan Xianxia realm, one has to reach will of mind 2 dan. Otherwise, without a pure mind, no matter how hard one tries, it is almost impossible for one to grasp the disposition and meaning behind Xianxia. Furthermore, this isn't only true for fighters. Many occupations also have such requirements. For example, one needs to reach heart of tranquil water before they are qualified to take the Master Teacher examination and Formation Master examination. Afraid that Xian had not understood, Liu Ling explained further. UN. Xian nodded his head. Will of mind isn't really a secret. There were records on it in the kingdom's book collection vault, and as such, with a single thought, he can easily look through it. It was precisely because he knew it that he understood how difficult it is to raise one's will of mind. If merely drinking a cup of tea can allow one to enter the state of heart of tranquil water, its effects are truly incredible, even though it is just temporary. Even the tranquil heart pill doesn't have such effects. It is no wonder that the way of tea is so popular within the kingdom, even exceeding painting at that. The reason for it lies here. That is to say, if back then, Meng Yang and Xianxia were to drink a cup before their pill forging, they would be able to create a perfect tranquil heart pill. Even though I come here often, it's not often that I get to drink a tea which such effects. This time, I have truly benefited from the halo of the 3 master teachers. Since Elder Qian agreed to give you an opportunity, you should grasp it. Emperor Shenzui smiled. May I know what test it is? Xian was somewhat moved. Turning to look at Elder Qian, he couldn't help but ask. Even though he had reached heart of tranquil water, he was only at the most basic level. If he were to drink the tea, he might be able to enter deeper into the realm, feeling the intermediate level, or even higher than that. Elder Qian didn't reply. Instead, he gestured, let them enter as well. Butler Qian nodded his head before stepping out. Shortly, a few other people entered. They were Qianlong, Lu Zun, Wang Chao, Huang Yu, and Bai Zun. Lu Zun pays respect to Elder Qian. Upon walking into the room, Lu Zun stepped forward, clasped his fists, and bowed to Elder Qian. UN, take a seat. I've heard that you and Xianxia are both outstanding teachers of Hongqian Academy. However, it is a pity that I only have 1 cup here, so I'll have to test you too. How about this? I will propose a question, and both of you will answer it. The person who wins qualifies to drink my tea. Liu Ling, what do you think? After having Lu Zun and the others sit down, Elder Qian turned to look at Liu Xia. Even though he spoke of drinking tea, as long as one wasn't a fool, one could tell what was going on. So this old fogey isn't really interested in testing me. What he wants to do is to create an opportunity for Lu Zun to display his skills. How can Xian still not understand what is going on? Even though he didn't know for sure why Liu Xia and the others were treating him so politely all of a sudden, he could roughly guess the reason. They were probably intending to accept him in as their apprentice. Otherwise, why would 3 great master teachers approach a low-level teacher like him? This matter had happened in the Qian residence, and as the host, it was impossible for Elder Qian to be unaware. Thus, even though he spoke of drinking tea, he actually didn't mean it. Rather, he was trying to make things difficult for Xian and provide a platform for Lu Zun to perform so that the latter can once again earn the favor of Liu Xia. Xian had no intentions to become Liu Xia's apprentice. Even so, the other party's move had displeased him. He felt that he was toyed with. However, he wasn't in a place to reject the challenge. Ever since the matter regarding the teacher evaluation spread out, people had been comparing him to Lu Xun. Even though it looks as though they are only vying over a cup of tea, they are actually competing to become Liu Shi's apprentice. If Xianxia were to reject the challenge, he would only be labeled as being frightened of facing Lu Xun. If so, Lu Xun will definitely become more arrogant. Since Xianxia was able to tell Elder Qian's intention, Liu Ling could tell as well. Frowning, his complexion darkened. Clearly, he didn't expect Elder Qian to make such a move. Even so, since given that he was a student of Elder Qian and it was his birthday banquet, it wasn't appropriate for him to reject his request. Thus, he could only nod his head in approval. All right. While Liu Shi and Xianxia were unhappy, Elder Qian actually felt dismal. Previously, after Liu Shi spoke of Lu Xun in his letter and clearly stated his intentions to accept the latter as his apprentice, Elder Qian went through the trouble to invite Lu Xun and had specially prepared to make another cup of tea to receive him. The examination was intended to make the introductions even smoother. However, Lu Xun didn't come, and in his place came Xianxia. Looking at Liu Shi's attitude, he realized that he is now interested in taking in Laoshi, which means it is likely that he had given up on Lu Xun. This made all the preparations he had made in advance futile, and thus, he was displeased. As such, he came up with this test all of a sudden. Otherwise, having already told Lu Xun in advance, only for the latter to be unable to become an apprentice, it would be embarrassing on his part. Lu Xun is willing to follow Elder Qian's arrangement. Understanding the intentions of the other party, Lu Xun was delighted. He hurriedly clasped his hands and bowed. Since we're going to conduct a test, we should have a topic. I wonder what we should examine. Knowing that he wasn't in a position to reject the challenge, Xianxia no longer bothered about the matter and focused on the test instead. Since we're all here to drink tea, we should discuss the way of tea. Qianlong, who was standing by the side, said, "Way of tea." Xianxia frowned. Laoshi had never come into contact with the way of tea, so it is a little too biased to test them on that. Huang Yu couldn't hold herself back but utter. She had interacted with Laoshi often, so she knew that while the other party is a master painter, he knows nothing about the way of tea. In fact, when speaking to him earlier today, the other party was clearly completely ignorant of the subject. Testing someone on the way of tea when he knows nothing about it? Isn't this intentionally making things difficult for him? Besides, based on what she knew, Lu Xun had specially learned the way of tea. Even though he can't compare to Qianlong, he had nevertheless listened to Elder Qian's lectures. At the very least, he is able to brew a tea of the first level. Even a blind person can tell that this test is obviously unfair. To become a master teacher's apprentice, one should be knowledgeable in all occupations. The way of tea is one of the occupations of the 9 paths, not to mention that it is extremely popular in the kingdom. So how can he be ignorant of it? If Laoshi really knows nothing about it, then I'm sorry, but I'll be drinking the cup of tea. Lu Xun chuckled softly, and confidence emanated from his gaze. You wish to compete against me? See how I crush you to death. Indeed. If one doesn't even know of the way of tea, how can one become the apprentice of a master teacher? You might as well just admit defeat instead of embarrassing yourself here. Wang Chao said. Having shamed himself earlier, Wang Chao made use of this opportunity to get back at Xianxia. All right, even though this is my first time hearing of way of tea, I can learn about it right now. How will the test be conducted? We can start right now. Upon seeing the other party's boastful attitude, Xianxia shook his head. Since someone wishes to step on my face, I will return it with a vicious, tight slap. Although this is the first time he heard of way of tea, there were plenty of books on the way of tea in the kingdom's book collection vault. It filled the entire 7th and 8th shelf, and they added up to more than 10,000 books. Back then, he had merely collected them into the library of Heaven's Path, and he hadn't read through them yet. But at this moment, it seems like it's time. Chapter 202, 9 Years Spring Learn Now. Upon hearing Xianxia's words, Lu Xun, Qianlong, and the others burst into laughter. You must be joking. Learning now? Do you think that the way of tea is some ordinary workmanship of those street-side craftsmen? That you can master it just because you said so? This is an occupation. Even if you immersed yourself in it every single day, without countless years of effort, it would be impossible for you to bear results. You wish to pass the test just by learning right now. Will it kill you to be more humble? However, this was good as well. This way, you won't be able to lift your head when you lose later on. Lu Xun snorted. While the others were laughing over Zhongxian's words, Huang Yu was on the verge of tears. She immediately sent him a telepathic message to persuade him otherwise. You mustn't agree. Lu Xun has specially learnt the way of tea and he is skilled in it. You don't even know what the way of tea is, yet you wish to compete against an initiate of the way of tea. Are you sure you aren't joking? I have seen reckless people before, but I have never seen such a reckless person. It's no problem. Knowing that she was truly concerned about him, Zhongxian reassured her with a smile. Seeing that Zhongxian's will was resolute, Huang Yu panicked, but there was nothing she could do. HMPH. Seeing how frivolous Zhong Laosha was acting, Elder Qian's face darkened. He had immersed his entire life into the way of tea to master its way, yet this fellow, despite knowing nothing at all, said that he would learn it right now. Learn what? How will you learn? Do you think it's playing house? Do you think you will learn the art just by looking at it? You must be joking. Even the three master teachers were staring at one another, and deep wrinkles formed on their foreheads. They had heard of Zhong Laosha's affair, but this was the first time they were meeting him in person. They didn't expect him to be such a reckless and frivolous person. If he truly had such a character, then despite his capability in imparting knowledge, they had to reconsider whether they should accept him as their apprentice. Let's begin then. Suppressing the displeasure he felt, Elder Qian gestured. The test is simple. Longer, you'll brew a pot of tea, after which Lu Laosha and Zhong Laosha will speak of the brewing technique used and its tea aroma. The way of tea was similar to pill forging in some ways. It had gone through countless years of inheritance and there were countless schools and techniques. The same tea leaves, if brewed using a different technique, would have differing fragrances, textures, and colors. That was why there were no right or wrong methods in brewing tea. Rather, one could only say whether one was better than the other. A good brewing technique could unleash the full fragrance contained within the tea leaves, nourishing the spirit of those drinking it. Understood. The edges of Qianlong's lips curled up. He glanced at Zhongxian before taking the tea tray and tea set from butler Qian Gang's hands. First, he used warm water to heat up the tea set. Then, grabbing a few tea leaves, he placed them into the teapot and flushed it with boiling water. When the tea leaves were steeped, the fragrance of the tea immediately gushed into the air, causing a deep aroma to linger in the hall. Incredible! To think that Qianlong would achieve such deep understanding of the way of tea despite his young age. I'm impressed. From the looks of it, Qian Laosha has imparted all of his knowledge down to him. Soon, another incredible tea master will appear in the Qianxian kingdom. Upon seeing Qianlong's movements, the three master teachers nodded their head in approval. They had learnt the way of tea from Elder Qian, and even though they hadn't reached the level of an official tea master, they had immersed themselves in the art for many years, so they possessed a decent amount of knowledge in it. Thus, they were able to see that Qianlong's skills were extraordinary. There are 4 levels to the way of tea, namely redolent hue, essence restoration, infused intentions, and diffusing fragrance. Even though nothing much can be said about his character, it is a fact that he possessed outstanding skills in the way of tea. Judging from his brewing technique, he should have already reached the 2nd level, essence restoration. Afraid that Zhongxian couldn't tell what was happening, Huang Yu was communicating with him via telepathy. The 1st level, redolent hue. It refers to the level where the tea one produces has reached a certain level of mastery in terms of aroma and color, making it pleasing to the eye and the nose. Don't underestimate this level just because it is the lowest one. In order to reach it, you need to have a clear understanding of the amount of water and tea leaves you must use, as well as the state of the tea set. Without years of hard work, it is difficult to reach this level. The 2nd level, which is the realm which Qianlong is currently at, is called essence restoration. At this level, you are no longer just showing off your skill. Rather, at this level, you infuse the art of tea brewing into your bones, granting them the ability to pull the most basic fragrance of the tea leaves out, allowing others to taste the most authentic tea. As for the third level, infused intentions, it is similar to that of the level of the same name in painting. The tea maker now understands the very essence of the way of tea, reaching the level where they are able to infuse their own artistic conception into the tea they brew. Those drinking it can experience the emotions of the tea maker through the tea he produces. At this level, one can take the tea master examinations and become an official tea master. Last but not least, the fourth level, diffusing fragrance. At this level, one can allow the fragrance of the tea to travel vast distances, such that people within several thousand li can smell it. At the same time, they can also confine the fragrance of the tea to the cup, making it linger within the cup. Those drinking such a tea would feel as though they were drinking a heavenly elixir. Elder Qian has reached such a level, and you can see the steam lingering over top the cup of tea he has poured. Upon reaching this level, not only will one be able to experience the full fragrance of the tea will also be warm no matter when one drinks it. It won't turn cold with the passing of time, which would affect its taste. Huang Yu seemed quite knowledgeable of the way of tea, and she explained the various levels that a cup of tea could reach to Xianxia. Knowing that she was trying to help him, Xianxia nodded his head, grateful. After hearing her words, Xianxia couldn't help but be impressed by how profound the art of tea brewing was. Just these 4 levels would require one to immerse themselves in the way of tea for their entire lifetime. While they were speaking, Qianlong finished brewing his tea. He slowly poured it out, the tea gushing out like a fountain. The delightful sound of the tea lapping against the sides of the teacup echoed in the air, as if created by an instrument. I've embarrassed myself. After pouring the tea into the teacup, the true fragrance of the tea immediately emanated all over the room. The aroma seemed to have some energizing quality to it, making everyone in the room feel refreshed. Qianlong smiled slightly in glee. Since he could reach the second level of the way of tea at his age, he could be considered as a genius among geniuses. He quickly shot his gaze to Huang Yu, thinking that she would feel deep respect for him and leap into his embrace. Yet it turned out that she wasn't looking at him at all. Rather, she was chatting with Xianxia. Qianlong's face immediately darkened, and he looked as though he would explode at any moment. It had taken him great effort to learn this tea brewing technique, and he wanted to flaunt it before the beautiful lady. Yet it ended like this. Xianxia. Qianlong diverted all of his anger onto Xianxia. Seeing his furious gaze, Xianxia blinked. I don't think that I've offended him. What's wrong with that fellow's head? Now that the tea has been brewed, who will go first? Elder Qian looked around. Allow me. Lu Xun stood up confidently. With an imposing disposition, he started to explain. Brother Qian's technique is called Root of the Fallen Leaves, and it comes from Master Changfeng from a century ago. He saw the growth of tea leaves over the course of 3 years when inspiration hit him, and he created this brewing technique. In the root of the fallen leaves, every single tea leaf is placed into the teapot based on their maturity. This way, the tea leaves would be steeped in the same sequence as well. Tea leaves are similar to humans in that they have veins, and are interconnected with one another. Steeping in this manner would be like soaking the tree from its roots to its tip. This kind of progressive brewing technique brings out the very essence of the tea leaves, allowing the tea to reach the second level, essence restoration. At this point, he flicked his sleeves and chuckled lightly. Brother Qian, I wonder if what I have said is right or not. Brother Lu is indeed talented. Your words do not have the slightest bit of error, Qianlong replied. All right, since I'm done talking about the brewing method, I'll talk about the aroma of the tea then. Standing in the same place, Lu Xun took in the aroma of the tea and smiled. The fragrance lingers around my nose, making me feel like I am in a tea garden. If I'm not wrong, it should have reached the 4th level. In order to better differentiate between the level of the tea and its taste, some of the more incredible tea masters had allocated 9 different levels for the aroma of the tea as well. First level of tea aroma, sweet aroma. Second level of tea aroma, revitalizing spirit. 4th level of tea aroma, alluring reminiscence. 9th level of tea aroma, congregation of the 100 birds. Even though Qianlong had brewed a tea of the second level, his tea aroma had already reached the fourth level, a luring reminiscence. That is to say, upon taking a sip from this cup of tea, the aroma would permeate into one's dreams, making it hard to forget. Yes. After hearing Lu Xun's reply, Elder Qian nodded his head satisfied. As expected of Lu Xun Laoshi, his understanding of the way of tea was completely accurate. I'm finished. Zhongxian Laoshi, it's your turn. Smiling faintly, Lu Xun turned to look at him. Me? You've already said everything, what else can I say? Zhongxian was speechless. Wasn't this fellow too shameless? The question only asked them about the brewing technique and the tea aroma level, and he had already said everything. What else could Zhongxian speak of? If Zhongxian were to say the same things, Lu Xun could simply say that Zhongxian had copied his answer. Brother Lu only spoke of the name of the brewing method. The way of tea is profound and deep, and there are still plenty of things to talk about. Zhong Laoshi, could it be that you don't know the technique I use, and you don't know what to say? With a cunning smile on his face, Qianlong said, if that's the case, I think it would be best for you to just admit defeat to not make the atmosphere awkward. Admit defeat? That isn't my way of doing things. Zhongxian shook his head. At this point, Zhongxian's lips curled up as he looked at Qianlong playfully. Are you sure you want me to speak? Stop putting on an act here. Qianlong flung his sleeves out. All right then. Zhongxian stood up. What Lu Laoshi said is true. Qianlong did use root of the fallen leaves. This brewing technique should have been a highly profound technique that is capable of brewing tea of the third level. But, in his hands, its form has been completely misinterpreted and turned worthless. It's a failure. You. Qianlong nearly leapt in anger. You need not be in a hurry to deny my words. Zhongxian chuckled softly. He walked over to Qianlong, casually lifted up the teacups to look at them, and slid his fingers across them. I need not say much about the tea set. In Elder Qian's residence, even if the equipment used isn't the best, it isn't too far from it. Let's begin from the moment you started brewing the tea. In the root of the fallen leaves, the progressive sequence of the action is of utmost importance. When hot water is poured into the teapot, the hot water would flow through the veins of the tea leaves, like the tea leaves are drinking the water. There is no problem with the sequence you place the tea leaves into the pot, but you neglected the unique property of the tea leaves. The tea leaf you used is called 9 years spring. From the emergence of the tea leaves to its harvesting and drying, the optimal time for its consumption is 9 years. At that moment, its fragrance would be the strongest. On this point, I'm not wrong, am I? Zhongxian looked at Qianlong. You're right. Qianlong nodded his head. 9 years spring were extremely rare tea leaves. Putting aside the fact that its harvest was limited, it was rarely traded in the markets. Even for their Qian residents, it took them a long time before they managed to gather several tales of it. How did this fellow who didn't know the way of tea know of it? Chapter 203, Found the wrong person. Usually, 1 year is sufficient for tea leaves to mature for consumption. Yet this tea leaf needs an entire 9 years, showing its uniqueness. As a result, one needs to steep it for a longer period of time so that its fragrance can be further drawn out. Yet after pouring hot water in, you took out the tea leaves within 3 breaths. As such, it caused the fragrance that had accumulated in the tea leaves over a course of 9 years to not be fully released. This is your first failure. 9 years spring grow in humid lands. As such, the tea leaves contain moisture within. Before steeping it, one needs to wash it with slightly salted water first in order to revitalize the veins of the leaves, allowing the tea leaves to better release their fragrance. Yet, not only did you not wash it beforehand, you even used a dry preparation method. Not only did this affect the texture of the tea, it even caused the level of the tea to drop an entire level. This is your second failure. Before starting on the preparation of the tea, it's right for you to warm the tea set. However, due to your excessive desire to flaunt your skills, you placed tea leaves into the teapot before you were done warming up the entire pot. Furthermore, the tea leaves were still at room temperature when you placed them in, resulting in a loss of heat. This is your third failure. Finally, when using the root of the fallen leaves to prepare the tea, in the very final step of pouring the tea into the teacups, you should do it within 3 breaths to ensure that their aroma and taste is the same. Yet you dragged it on for 7 breaths. As a result, the aroma and texture of the first cup and the 5th cup differs by almost an entire level. You can check it right now if you like. Although the first cup has reached the 4th level, the last cup is only at most at the 3rd level. For there to be 2 different tastes for the same pot of tea, this is your 17th failure. All at once, Xianxia pointed out 17 of the other party's errors without any pause. Then he looked at Qianlong with sympathy. For such an amazing technique, the root of the fallen leaves, and such good tea leaves, the 9 years spring, to be brewed by you in such a manner, what else could it be if not worthless? You. Qianlong's face paled, as though he had met a ghost. He wanted to refute the other party's words, but he was unable to say a word. He had just learnt this brewing technique, and it was natural that he would make many mistakes with it. Rationally, it wasn't a big deal. But how was the other party able to see through all of it? Wasn't he inept in the way of tea? His grandfather had said the same things as well. In fact, the other party pointed out even more flaws than his grandfather. His grandfather could only point out 4 or 5 of them, yet the other party spoke of 17 of them in a breath. Could it be that the other party's knowledge of tea brewing exceeded that of his grandfather's? How was that possible? Not just him. At that instant, the hall fell so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. Everyone was staring at Xianxia as though they were looking at a monster. This was especially true for Lu Xun. His eyes were about to pop out onto the ground. He was proud of the fact that he was able to point out the brewing technique the other party used, as well as the level of the tea aroma. Yet, not only was the other party able to see through these as well, he was even able to point out the flaws in his tea brewing technique precisely. For a moment, he felt his face being brutally slapped. It felt fiery hot, as though it would tear apart at any moment. What exactly was going on? To be able to say so much about tea, to the point that you even have such an in-depth understanding of the 9 years spring. Are you a tea vendor? Elder Qian, may I know if my words are correct? Ignoring the astonishment everyone was going through, Xianxia chuckled and turned his eyes to Elder Qian. The tea brewing of a tea master was similar to a battle technique by a fighter, and the Library of Heaven's Path had compiled a book on Qianlong. If Qianlong hadn't provoked him, Xianxia couldn't have bothered with him either and wouldn't have embarrassed him in public. Yet the other party kept trying to taunt him, even making use of Lu Xun to humiliate him. If that were to be the case, then Xianxia felt a need to retaliate. Of course, he had also gone easy on the other party. He had only pointed out a portion of his flaws. If he were to speak of all of them, that fellow would probably end up like Apothecary by Ming. His confidence would be completely crushed and he would find himself coming to a standstill in the way of tea. What you said? Honestly, Elder Qian was unable to ascertain the authenticity of half of the words the other party had said. But for the other half, it was absolutely correct. Furthermore, for the half he wasn't sure of, based on his deductions from his knowledge in way of tea, they were likely to be true as well. With just a single glance, the other party was able to see through so many problems. Am I the tea master, or is he the tea master? Elder Qian looked like he had seen a demon. After hesitating for a long time, he continued, "Are all correct?" "All correct." Zhong Laosha's words are all correct. Hearing his verdict, a commotion broke out in the hall. This was especially so for Bai Zun and Huang Yu. They could see the frenzy in each other's eyes. On the way here, Zhong Laosha had been asking about the way of tea, and it was obvious that he was a total rookie on the subject. It was clear that he hadn't even heard of the term before coming here. They were still worried about what would happen after he lost to Lu Xun. Yet, to think that such a twist would occur instead. Brother, can you stop playing with our hearts? If you have such an in-depth understanding of the way of tea, why must you feign ignorance? He must have done it on purpose. When Huang Yu recalled how she sent a telepathic message to Xianxia to explain the 4 levels of tea brewing to him out of goodwill previously, Huang Yu felt like spitting blood. Most probably, that fellow must have been laughing at her ignorance. It seems like Master Zhong was also like that during the painting examination. Just as Huang Yu was cursing the other party in her mind, she suddenly heard Bai Zun's perplexed voice. Upon hearing those words, Huang Yu suddenly recalled the matter as well. Back then, before painting, Master Zhong also seemed like a complete rookie, not knowing anything at all. But, after reading some books, he was able to create a painting of the 5th level easily. This fellow. What was going on? How could there be such a peculiar person in the world? Since it's right, does it mean that I've passed your test? Clasping both his hands behind his back, Xianxia returned to his seat and looked at him calmly. Hold it right there. Before Elder Qian could even speak, Wang Chao abruptly stood up. The question that Elder Qian came up with was for Xian and Brother Lu to tell the brewing technique used and the level of the tea fragrance, and whoever who was able to figure out both of them would be the victor. Brother Lu's answer of root of the fallen leaves and 4th level of tea aroma isn't wrong. On the other hand, Zhong Laosha said so much, but he left out the main point. Thus, it could be said that he had gone off topic, so I think that Brother Lu should be the victor. Indeed, even though Brother Lu didn't speak of the latter part, it doesn't mean that he doesn't know of it at all. He simply thought that it was off topic and didn't find the need to bring it up. Upon hearing Wang Chao's words, Qian Long's eyes lit up. If that fellow were to truly win this competition and become an apprentice of Liu Shi, wouldn't he be together with Huang Yu daily? If so, Qian Long wouldn't stand a chance anymore. So he couldn't allow the other party to succeed. Furthermore, he had just been insulted by the other party. With such an ideal opportunity to put him down, how could he let it slip past his fingers? Hearing the other party's words, Xianxia was stunned. He thought that he himself was a shameless person to think that these two were able to top him at his field. Gone off topic? If spoken of, it was true that he had gone off topic. Just that. Lu Laosha had already revealed the answer. If Zhong Laosha didn't say something else, wouldn't he just be repeating his answer? Huang Yu couldn't be a bystander to the situation any longer and stood up furiously. What kind of joke was this? You've already answered all that could be answered. What do you expect the other party to say under such a situation? If he answered just like you did, you would just say that he had copied you. On the other hand, if he said something else, you would simply say that he had gone off topic. No matter what, you all are star teachers. Can't you all at least spare a thought for your dignity? Enough. Stop arguing. Seeing sparks flying from both sides, Elder Qian waved his hands. It's my negligence for coming up with such a question, so let's just drop this. Drop this. Xianxia stared at Elder Qian. It was clear that he was helping Lu Zun. But this came as no surprise to him either. It was the first time Elder Qian had met Xianxia. Naturally, the other party would help Lu Zun, who he was more familiar with. Qian Laosha. Upon hearing these words, Liu Ling frowned. Aren't you showing your favoritism too publicly? Enough. There's no need for you to say any more. This matter is my fault, so I'll come up with another question for the two of them. There's no need for us to fuss over this matter, Elder Qian interrupted impassively. Okay. Since his teacher had already put it this way, out of respect for the other party, Liu Ling didn't refute his words. He could only look at Xianxia apologetically. I apologize for my inappropriate choice of question on the way of tea previously. However, I can tell that the two of you are extremely knowledgeable in the way of tea. If we were to continue pitting you two in this field, it might breed discord among you two instead. How about this? Other than the way of tea, I am also slightly knowledgeable in the field of painting as well. Furthermore, I have just received an amazing painting recently. As teachers, you two should have some knowledge on painting as well. Thus, why don't I bring it out for you two to appreciate and appraise? Whoever's appraisal is more accurate will be the victor. After hesitating for a moment, Elder Qian stroked his beard and said, Painting. After hearing the other party's words, Xianxia had to stifle in his laughter. If the other party had chosen to test him on something else, Xianxia would still have to dredge up the books from his library to look through them. But as for painting, there wasn't such a need at all. Since he was able to draw a painting of the 5th level, he had already reached the level of a grandmaster in painting. Are you sure that Lu Zun would be able to win against me? However, it wasn't surprising that the other party would make such a decision. After the previous incident, Elder Qian could see that Zhong Xian was knowledgeable of the way of tea. Even if he were to give another question on it, Lu Xun would still lose. Naturally, Elder Qian knew of Lu Xun's background. Lu Xun's father was Master Lu Chen, a true master painter, and since childhood, Lu Xun often came into contact with paintings. As such, his knowledge of painting far surpassed that of his way of tea. As a result, he decided to go ahead with a painting test. This way, he would be using Lu Xun's strength against Zhong Xian. However, it was a pity that he couldn't have imagined that, even Lu Xun's father, Master Lu Chen, would have to address Zhong Xian respectfully as a master. Do you two have any disagreements? After saying this, Elder Qian turned his gaze to the duo. Lu Xun dares not oppose Elder Qian's arrangements. Lu Xun clasped his hands and answered obediently, but on the inside, he was nearly dying of joy. Even though Qianlong had said that Zhong Xian was likely to be a master painter, Lu Xun had attributed the matter to just Zhong Xian boasting. He didn't pay it any attention. Also, he was much more proficient in painting than the way of tea. Mo Chanzi, Yuanyu, Lu Chen, all of the works of the master painters and the books he had read when he was younger flashed through his mind. Slowly, a confident smile crept onto his face. What a joke! He had just taken the way of tea to broaden his horizon, but painting was his specialty. As long as Zhong Xian wasn't a master painter, it was impossible for him to defeat him. Lu Xun was confident. What about Zhong Laosha? Upon seeing him agree to it, Elder Qian nodded his head and turned to Zhong Xian. I agree as well. Zhong Xian nodded his head. Competing in painting appraisal. The three master teachers, Huang Yu, and Bai Zun knew of Zhong Xian's background and they stared at one another. A moment later, they simultaneously turned their gazes to Lu Xun, and the sympathy in their eyes was clear to see. The way of tea competition between them previously didn't cause a huge blow to Lu Xun as it wasn't his field of specialty. As such, he didn't get discouraged even though he lost to Zhong Xian. But as for painting, he would probably cry himself to death this time. Sigh, poor child. Honestly, Lu Xun, you found the wrong person to compete with. There are two methods to preparing Chinese tea: dry preparation and wet preparation. In wet preparation, you need a special tea set, and after washing the equipment, you just pour the water on the tea set. As such, it is labeled wet preparation method. On the other hand, dry preparation is much cleaner. All of the unused water is dumped into the sink waste container. Chapter 204, Lu Xun's appraisal skills. Initially, Liu Ling wanted to tell Elder Qian about the matter, but upon recalling how the other party interrupted his words, he decided not to say anything for fear of incurring his irritation. Since both of you are fine with it, Qian Gang, bring that painting over. After saying this, Elder Qian gestured. Yes. Soon, Qian Gang came over with a large but thin box in his embrace. This is the painting Liu Shi has gifted me. I believe it is fitting of the word perfect. No matter how many times I look at it, I can't help but compliment it. Today, you'll have the blessing to view the work of an incredible master. Elder Qian chuckled as he took out the painting from within the box. I really hope that I can meet a master painter of this caliber before my death and witness his extraordinary skills. Stroking the painting in his hands, respect gleamed in Elder Qian's eyes. There were many similarities between tea brewing and painting. Due to this, he also held a fervent passion for painting. Even though he had yet to reach the level of master, he was still quite knowledgeable in the field. All right, I'll stop talking. I'll let you guys see the painting now. Zhuangxian, Zhengfei, since you two are skilled in painting as well, you should give your opinions on it too. He carefully unrolled the painting. An ink painting immediately appeared before everyone's eyes. A deer stood on a grass patch, eating the grass warily. Beautiful wild flowers bloomed throughout the surroundings, and for an instant, the spectators could really smell the scent of flowers. Even though it was just a flat painting, the wild deer seemed like it would leap out of the painting at any moment. This is a painting of the 5th level. Right after taking a look, Lu Xun's eyes narrowed and his breathing quickened. As someone from a distinguished painting family, he held a deep understanding of paintings. As such, he was able to see the ingenuity of the painting with a single glance. The level of the painting was clearly beyond that of breathtaking verisimilitude. Even when considering the entire Xianxia kingdom, it was possible that not a single painting of such caliber would be produced in the span of a century. Being able to appraise such a painting was a great honor for him. Even a master painter like his father had never seen a painting of this level. Indeed, it is a painting of the 5th level. However, it is a pity that the painter didn't leave behind his name and the name of the painting. Otherwise, I would have surely paid him a visit personally. Elder Qian shook his head in regret. All right, let's start the appraisal now. Whoever's appraisal is more accurate and on point will be the victor. This time, the 3 master teachers and I will be the judges, so there is no need to doubt the fairness of the judgment. This time, Xianxia should go first. Since Lu Xun was the one who spoke first last time, for the sake of fairness, Xianxia should be the one to go first this time. After Elder Qian finished speaking, the hall fell silent for a moment. He couldn't stop himself from looking in the direction of Xianxia, only to see him staring at the painting with a dumbfounded look. Seeing him in such a state, Elder Qian frowned. A painting of the 5th level was profound, and it was easy for amateurs who didn't understand painting to lose themselves in the painting, unable to discern the painting aside from reality. Clearly, Xianxia was suffering from such an effect. How could a fellow who was unable to discern the painting from reality understand painting? It seemed like he made the correct decision choosing to conduct a painting test. This Xianxia shouldn't be a match for Lu Xun at all. HMPH. After boasting so much, it turns out that you are only on this level. Master Painter. You must be joking. Upon seeing Xianxia losing himself in the painting, Qianlong sneered. If Master Yuanyu's words had raised his doubts, seeing the fellow in such a state now made all of them vanish. How could a true master painter be reduced to such a state upon seeing a painting of the 5th level? He must have been too astonished by the sight that he lost himself. Xianxia. Elder Qian called. Yes. Only then did Xianxia recover from his trance. With a bizarre expression, he said, "There's no need. I'll allow Lu Laoxia to go first. I will just listen to his appraisal first." All right, I will go first then. However, I hope that you won't find any excuses when you lose later on. Seeing how the other party didn't even have the courage to go first, Lu Xun became disdainful of Xianxia. This fellow must have thought that the painting before him was too profound, and he didn't know how he should appraise it. That's why he allowed Lu Xun to go first. Afterwards, he could just make up some comments based on Lu Xun's words. You might have been able to use that move just then, but now that I'm prepared, how can I allow you to do so again? Flicking his sleeves, Lu Xun walked to the middle of the hall. Absolute confidence exuded from his body. As a painting of the 5th level, this painting is left behind by a painting grandmaster. As such, I dare not claim to understand the painting fully, and if there are any mistakes in my appraisal, I'll be depending on everyone here to correct me. Walking forward to the painting, Lu Xun's eyes gleamed with a disposition unique to a master. To appraise a painting of such level, you must slowly zoom in from outward, and slowly dive in from the details to its essence. Thus, I will first talk about the overall painting. Back then, during the competition on tea brewing, he had only spoken of the name of the brewing technique and the tea aroma level, allowing a lot of leeway for the other party to perform. This time, in preparation against that, he intended to speak of all he could on the painting. As long as I say everything that can be said, let's see what you will say later on. Since you like to fake it so much, I will see how you can continue acting when there's nothing for you to say. Even though the painter hasn't left his name behind for this painting, it contains a deep artistic conception within it. With just a single look you can feel you are in a vast grassland, surrounded by flowers, and watching a wild deer calmly eating grass. My guess is that the grandmaster who painted this painting must have been standing in a vast grassland, taking in the spectacle and tranquility of the sight when inspiration struck him, resulting in the creation of this masterpiece. If a name should be given to it, I think that it should be Burnished Blue Skies. Lu Xun said. Burnished Blue Skies? Not bad. That's an imposing name. I believe that it reflects the painter's state of mind then, awed by the sight before him. Qianlong praised. Did you see that? That's a true master painter, being able to see through the essence of the painting at once, inducing lofty thoughts in others. After that, I will go on to speak about its contents and the painting technique used. Clearly, this painting was painted using the double hook technique. First, the painter drew the outline of the objects before painting in the grand artistry, filling in the colors of the flowers, grasses, and the wild deer. Only through this painting method can one create such a grand painting with such powerful artistry. Lu Xun's eyes were glowing. Double hook technique? Don't you think that it is dual traversing dragons instead? Xianxia couldn't stop himself from commenting. Dual traversing dragons? Do you even know what that means? Before Lu Xun could speak, Qianlong had already burst into laughter. Dual traversing dragons is a technique that street-side craftsmen use when they're pressed for time. It is used for replicating a painting, and even so, only by replicating the same painting over and over again can one successfully replicate a painting down to the minute details. Yet, you say that this fifth-level painting is created through such a technique? Ha ha, are you sure you understand anything about painting? Qianlong wasn't the only one who stared at Xianxia in disdain. Even Elder Qian couldn't help but shake his head. Painting a painting of the fifth level through dual traversing dragons? That was like saying one could display the strength of the powerful dragon subduing palms through executing the basic long fists. Are you sure that you are a master painter and not a comedian? You sure have a vivid imagination. Lu Xun sneered. The contempt in his eyes deepened and his lips curled up in disdain. Disregarding the fellow who didn't know anything about painting, he turned to look at the painting again before continuing. I have just spoken of the overall picture, so I'll touch on the details now. On this aspect, the Grandmaster has drawn them with painstaking detail, making them incredibly lifelike. Looking at these flowers, you can clearly see the veins in them. As for the deer, you can actually make out the fur on its body. As such, even though the painter is a Grandmaster, he likely took a minimum of 2 or 3 days to finish this painting. Only through slowly sculpting the details can one bring out the minute details perfectly and elegantly, making it impossible for the audience to find any fault with it. I must say that this master's patience is outstanding. Awe flashed in Lu Xun's eyes. After pacing in front of the painting, he added, last but not least, even though this painting has profound artistry, and the painter's name isn't left on it, based on my years of experience of appraising paintings, I can roughly guess his identity. Oh, you're able to guess his identity? Who is it? Hearing his words, Xianxia couldn't resist asking. The strange look on his face deepened as well. Putting his hands behind his back, Lu Xun glanced upward, and with haughtiness and incredible confidence, he said, there aren't more than 7 masters in the surrounding kingdoms who are capable of painting such a grand and moving painting in the past century. Of the 7, only 3 of them have produced paintings of this sort in the past. And the 3 of them are, to wit, Senior Jin Mantang from Beiwu Kingdom, Senior Wu Jiechao from Hanwu Kingdom, and Senior Yun Shaoqing from Shunwu Kingdom. Senior Jin Mantang left behind his masterpiece at the 18-Zhong waterfall, of which, the pine trees were painted with forceful strokes, giving the painting a prehistoric feeling. On this aspect, it felt extremely similar to how the wild deer and grassland were drawn, so he should be the most likely suspect. However, Senior Mantang passed away 80 years ago, and if he had left behind this painting, it would likely have been discovered by someone already. Thus, it is highly unlikely for him to be the painter. As for Senior Wu Jiechao, he specializes in painting animals. It's said that he once painted a white crane lying on the ground, and it attracted a flock of real cranes to wail for their companion's death, eventually dying from grief. Most likely, only someone of his level is capable of painting this wild deer. However, he only specializes in painting animals, not flora and fauna. Most probably, of the kingdoms nearby, the only one who can paint such an outstanding masterpiece is Senior Yun Shaoqing. More importantly, of the 3 grandmasters, he's the only one who is still alive. So my guess is that this drawing is a work of his. At which, Lu Xun stood proudly as he looked at Elder Qian. Good, your analysis is in depth and logical. Elder Qian applauded. Did you see that? What is professionalism? This is professionalism. Not only was his analysis logical and backed by evidence, he was even able to deduce the likely painter of the work. As expected of Master Lu Chen's son, his knowledge and discernment were indeed outstanding. He would probably be the victor of this test. All right, Zhong Laosha. It's your turn. After complimenting Lu Xun, Elder Qian turned to look at Zhong Xian. It's my turn? Are you sure you want me to speak? Zhong Xian asked. Of course. Why, do you want to say that I've already said everything, and that there's nothing left to add? The mockery in Lu Xun's eyes was clear. No. Actually, I can't think of anything to say. After contemplating for a long time, I only have 4 words for it. Zhong Xian said. 4 words. Elder Qian and Lu Xun looked at him, perplexed. Yep. Zhong Xian scratched his head embarrassed. If I'm not wrong, I painted this painting. Chapter 205. Is it my victory? You painted it. The hall fell completely silent. Then a commotion broke out. You said that this painting of the 5th level was painted by you? Zhong Xian, you are going to make me die of laughter. Even if you can't appraise anything about it, you should just admit your defeat. You don't need brag to such an extent. You sure are thick-skinned. Even if you want to brag, there should be a limit. Are you going to tell us that you are Grandmaster Yun Xiaoqing next? Know your place. Do you know what a painting of the 5th level means? To think that you would dare to claim that you are the painter, stop joking. Qianlong, Lu Xun, and Wang Chao sneered. The 3 of them stared at Zhong Xian as though he were a fool. What does a painting of the 5th level mean? Currently, in the entire Xianxia kingdom, there wasn't a single person who was capable of producing a painting of such level. Not even Lu Xun's father, Master Lu Chen, was capable of such a feat, yet a mere low-level teacher of the academy who wasn't even 20 yet said that he had created such a painting. If this wasn't a joke, what could it be? Liu Ling, is this the person you intend to accept as your apprentice? He is arrogant and boastful. Do you think that it is fitting for such a person to be a teacher? Elder Qian's flung his sleeves as his complexion darkened. Ever since Liu Xia had sent this painting to him, he had hung it on his wall and appreciated it every single day. Regardless of how many times he had seen it, he couldn't help but be impressed by it. All along, he had thought that it was a masterpiece from some grandmaster painter and admired him. Yet this fellow said that he was the one who painted it? It was an insult to this masterpiece. Qian Laosha, this painting. Upon hearing his teacher's furious interrogation, Liu Ling looked slightly hesitant. Was really painted by Zhong Xian Laosha. What, you admit that he's arrogant as well? Ha! What did you say? Halfway through the sentence, Liu Ling's words suddenly hit him and he almost fainted. With quivering lips, he asked, He painted it. Yes, this painting was painted by Zhong Laosha a few days ago. Liu Ling smiled bitterly. Back then, when Huang Yu passed this painting to him so that he could pass it on to Elder Qian as a gift, her words also stunned him. Even in a Tier 2 kingdom like Beiwu, a painting of the 5th level was a hard-to-come-by treasure. Yet such a treasure came from the hands of a low-level teacher of Hongqian Academy, not even mentioning that the other party wasn't even 20 yet. Even though he had heard from his apprentice directly, he found the matter hard to believe. This. Elder Qian's eyes narrowed and his face flushed with embarrassment. If there were a hole in the hall at this moment, he would have dived in at that instant. As a master teacher, it was impossible for Liu Ling to lie about such things. That meant that the painting really came from the hands of Zhong Laosha. Elder Qian had been speaking praises of the painter all along, saying that he would like to meet that painter before his demise, yet now that the painter was before him, he doubted his identity. I don't believe it. Even if he had started learning from his mother's womb, it is impossible for him to produce such an incredible work. Hearing Liu Xia admit to it, Lu Xun gritted his teeth. He had just praised the creator of the painting to the high heavens, be it his technique or his brush strokes. He even guessed the identity of the creator of the painting to be the esteemed Grandmaster painter. It seemed that all that was missing was for him to bow in reverence to the painting. Yet, it turned out to be the one whom he had been trying to put down all along. This was unacceptable to him. I don't believe it either. Liu Xia, Don't be fooled by him, Wang Chao bellowed as well. However, before he could finish speaking, Xianxia had already walked up to the painting and his hands gently touched the painting. Whoosh! With a crisp sound, the wild deer seemed to have suddenly came to life. Turning its head around, it leapt out from the painting, dancing for a moment before dissipating into thin air. This is origin spirit? The origin spirit which only the creator of the painting can trigger. A painting contains the blood, sweat, and tears of its creator, and as such, it is perfectly aligned with the creator's spirit. When a painting reaches the 5th level, as long as the creator touches it, the painting will automatically form a spirit. He really painted it. It was easy to determine the creator of a painting when it reached the level of spirit creation. As long as the creator were to come into physical contact with it, the painting would automatically display its ability to come to life. Seeing the wild deer running about, the aura of the painting seemed to resonate with Xianxia. No matter how stupid a person, it was clear that the creator of the painting was him. How is this possible? Lu Xun staggered backward before falling onto the floor. He was on the verge of tears. Just a moment ago, he was still confidently uttering that the creator of the painting was definitely Grandmaster Yun Shaoqing, and that he had used the double hook painting technique. In the end, reality turned around and slapped him right in his face. Brother, if I knew you are a Grandmaster painter, I would have never competed with you. Aren't I just looking for a beating? Next to him, Wang Chao and Qianlong convulsed, on the verge of passing out. Especially Qianlong. He finally understood why even Master Yuanyu treated this fellow with utmost respect, even wanting to learn from him. A Grandmaster who was capable of producing a painting of the 5th level was worthy of that much respect. Grandmaster Xianxia, please pardon me for my blindness. With an awful complexion, Elder Qian stood up and clasped his hands together. In an instant, he seemed like he had aged a decade or more. Having immersed his entire life in teaching and enlightening others, he had enjoyed quite a tremendous reputation. To think that he would slip up here. Having Lu Xun compete with a Grandmaster painter in a painting competition? Was there anything more ridiculous than this? He had intended to help Lu Xun become an apprentice of Liu Shi, but in the end, he simply made things worse. Furthermore, it was the worst kind of worse. It was no wonder that Liu Ling and the others were willing to drop their identities just to convince the other party to become their apprentice. If a Grandmaster painter who was capable of producing a painting of the 5th level were to become an apprentice, he would immediately be eligible to take the Master Teacher examination. If he passed the examination, his teacher's reputation would definitely resound through the surrounding kingdoms. Without answering Elder Qian's words, Xianxia stood before the painting quietly, staring at it. I painted this painting at Master Lu Chen's residence a few days ago. I wasn't standing on a grassland, and I didn't use the double hook painting technique either. What I used was the dual traversing dragons. Also, the painting took me 47 breaths, not the few days you spoke of. Dual traversing dragons. 47 breaths. Lu Xun's mouth twitched once more. Back then, he had said confidently that even if the one who painted the painting was a Grandmaster, he had to spend at least a few days on it, and it was very likely that he was standing in the midst of a grassland, inspired by the sight before him. Yet, to think it was actually created at home, not to mention, in such a short period of time. And what that shocked him the most was that Xianxia used the replication technique, which only street-side craftsmen used, to produce a painting of 5th level. You are about to pierce the heavens at this rate. Hearing those words, tears threatened to fall from Qianlong's eyes. Back then, he had humiliated the other party when he talked about this technique. Yet, in the blink of an eye, it turned out that the other party spoke nothing but the truth, and that he was just humiliating himself. Can dual traversing dragons, a technique used to hasten one's painting speed, really create such an incredible painting? Xianxia, exactly how incredible are you? Ignoring the duo, Xianxia touched the painting and said, "May I know if there's any brush and ink here?" "Yes, of course." Elder Qian gestured and Qian Gang immediately rushed out. Soon he brought in a brush and ink. Due to his agitation, he nearly tripped when entering the hall. As long as one wasn't a fool, it was clear that Xianxia was going to leave his name on this painting. The presence of a signature on a painting could change the value of a painting vastly. Often signed paintings tended to be 10 times more expensive. Not to mention, Zhong Laoshi was such a young grandmaster painter. In a few years' time, when he had become a master teacher and his name had rung loud throughout the surrounding kingdoms, the value of this painting with his name on it would definitely soar exponentially. Of course, the value of the painting was of secondary concern. More importantly, it was an incredible honor to see a grandmaster painter adding his own signature onto the painting. This painting doesn't have the imposing aura Lu Xun spoke of, and neither does it have a profound artistic conception. Thus, it isn't worthy of the name Burnished Blue Skies. At this, Zhong Xian dabbed the brush into the ink, walked up to the painting, and without any hesitation, his brush started to dance around. Shua shua shua. 2 large words appeared on the top of the painting. Wild deer. Seeing the name he had written, everyone was stunned. They thought that Zhong Xian would give it an awe-inspiring name. Wasn't wild deer too casual a name? Candid. This is the level of a true grandmaster, spoke Elder Qian after a moment of silence. Indeed, the center of focus of this painting is the deer. Everything else in the painting frames it. All the artistry and dispositions contained within the painting are brought out through it. Even though the name, Wild Deer, sounds simple and unimpressive, it brings out the main content of the painting, bringing the entire painting up another level. Liu Ling commented in awe. Zhong Laoshi was indeed a remarkable existence. Putting aside the fact that he was able to become a painting grandmaster at such a young age, just the name he came up with was sufficient to bring the entire painting up another level. That isn't just it. If the painting were named Burnished Blue Skies, those who looked at the painting would be affected by it. Their focus would be brought to the contrasting elements instead of the true essence of the painting. On the other hand, Wild Deer might be a simple name, but it doesn't constrain your thoughts. It allows room for your imagination to run, adding to the disposition and artistry of the painting, said Xianxia. Indeed, they are indeed divine words. Zheng Fei nodded his head. Just when he was about to say his piece, he suddenly paused abruptly and pointed ahead. Look! Everyone looked over, only to see the wild deer from the painting leaping out once more. It stared at Zhong Xian fondly and licked his hand a few times before slowly dissipating into thin air. This is spiritual wisdom. A spiritual wisdom realm painting? No, it hasn't reached that level yet, otherwise the wild deer would materialize for a longer moment than this. Even so, it isn't too far from it. Just by adding a name, the entire painting was raised by another level, and now, it was just a single step away from reaching the 6th level. Looking at the wild deer's appearance, everyone was stunned. All of their faces flushed with excitement. The first 4 realms of painting were reality depiction, spiritual canvas, infused intentions, and breathtaking verisimilitude, respectively. The 5th realm was spirit creation. Above spirit creation, there was still a 6th realm, the spiritual wisdom they spoke of. It was said that all of the animals in a painting of this level would possess their own intelligence, and were able to absorb spiritual energy to maintain their form outside the painting for a short period of time, creating a mystical sight. Everyone here had thought that it was just a legend, but to think that they would have the honor of seeing it in person. Even though the wild deer in the painting was still unable to absorb spiritual energy to maintain its form for a longer period of time, just the fact that it was able to display its affection for its creator showed that it had started to gain intelligence. If it were nourished in a location where spiritual energy was in abundance for a century, it might just become a genuine painting of the 6th level. For just a name to bring the painting up nearly an entire level, the 2 words wild deer were indeed worth thousands of gold each. At this moment, everyone stared at the young man before them with fiery eyes. This was especially true for Huang Yu and Bai Zun. They were so excited their bodies were trembling. Ignoring their excitement, Zhong Xian placed the brush down and scanned the surroundings. I'm done with the appraisal. This test, is it my victory? Chapter 206. Gifting tea leaves. Only after hearing those words did everyone remember that the conclusion of the test between him and Lu Xun wasn't out yet. All eyes immediately shot to Elder Qian. You win. Elder Qian sighed bitterly. An appraisal competition against the creator of the painting? What a joke. It would be ridiculous to say that Xianxia had lost. More importantly, just by granting the painting a name, the painting was raised by nearly an entire level. Xianxia, here is your spirit-calming tea. Since Xianxia had achieved victory, Qian Gang handed the teacup to him. The steam from the tea still lingered above it, and the fragrance tickled Xianxia's nose. Even before drinking it, Xianxia felt refreshed and energized just by the aroma itself. After taking the teacup, just when everyone thought that the young man would drink it and indulge himself in its fragrance, he simply tilted the cup and poured it onto the floor. Hualala! The fragrance of the tea immediately diffused all around the room. Xianxia. Upon seeing such a valuable cup of tea being wasted, Liu Ling, Huang Yu, and the others were astonished. Disbelief shone in their eyes. This was spirit-calming tea, a tea which countless cultivators dream of, only to remain out of their grasp. Even Huang Yu, an assistant master teacher, wasn't qualified to drink it. To pour it away like that. What a waste of precious resources. Everyone looked regretful. Xianxia, my grandfather offered you such valuable tea out of goodwill, yet you poured it away like that. What do you mean by that? Qianlong abruptly stood up. His grandfather had his butler present Xianxia with the tea, but the other party poured it away in front of him. This was blatant disrespect for Elder Qian. Besides, even Qianlong wasn't qualified to drink the tea. Yet this fellow simply wasted it like that. He found it unforgivable. Infuriated, regardless of whether the other party was a grandmaster painter or not, he immediately rebuked him. Unfortunate. Ignoring the other party's howl, Xianxia placed his hands behind his back and looked outside the hall. It seemed as though his attention was somewhere far away. He sighed. Stop putting up a front here. You are the one who poured away the tea, yet you're saying it's unfortunate now. Do you really take the Qian clan as people you can step on like that? Qianlong lashed out. He was the one who poured the tea out, yet he was saying that it was unfortunate now. What the hell are you trying to do? Are you doing it on purpose? Everyone else were perplexed as well. They had no idea what Xianxia was up to. Liu Ling, Zhuangxian, and the others stared at each other confused. As master teachers, they possessed incredible discerning capabilities, allowing them to see through many matters. Yet they realized that their discerning abilities were useless before him. They couldn't see through the other party's cultivation, his thoughts, or his intentions. He was a mystery wrapped in an enigma. Especially now. Despite the risk of offending Elder Qian, he spilt the tea on the floor. What was he up to? If things went on like this, there'd be no backing down anymore. They were considering whether they should step forward to mediate the situation. Just when everyone was feeling apprehensive of the fight that was about to occur, Xianxia turned around to look at Elder Qian. The tea leaves of spirit-calming tea grow at the peak of the ice mountain, granting it its calming and revitalizing properties. It is harvested right after the blooming of its flowers. Usually, when brewed, it should allow one to maintain heart of tranquil water for 100 breaths. Yet this cup could only allow one to maintain the state for 12 breaths. For the effects of such fine tea leaves to be reduced to this state, if this isn't unfortunate, what else can it be? You! How did you know that this cup of tea could only maintain heart of tranquil water for 12 breaths? Elder Qian was initially infuriated by Xianxia's actions as well, but upon hearing his words, he was stunned. The effects of spirit-calming tea were clearly stated in the books to last for 100 breaths. However, no matter how Elder Qian brewed the tea, he was only able to maintain its effects for 12 breaths or so. Initially, he thought that it was due to the inaccuracies of the book, but hearing the matter from Xianxia's mouth at this moment, he was astonished. I thought you didn't drink the tea. If you didn't drink it, how could you have known the effects of my tea? The tea set, teacups, and teapot are the emerald radiant set personally created by Master Potter Wu Qingzi. As for the water, it came from the deep well in 3 Gardens platform, and it was exposed to the sun for 2 days straight before boiling it for an hour. And for the brewing technique, you used 7 hearts coiling hands to make the tea. In order to brew this tea, you have cleansed yourself, eaten a vegetarian diet for 7 days straight, and adjusted your state of mind to heart of tranquil water. You went for perfection on every single aspect, fearful that a mistake would occur in the midst of anything. However, it is unfortunate. The effects of the spirit-calming tea you brewed still weren't maximized. Even more so, it could be said to be a failed product. Xianxia gestured casually. You. Elder Qian was flabbergasted. He didn't even notice the teacup in his hands falling onto the table. The words of the other party were completely correct. The water used for steeping the tea leaves was indeed from the deep well in Three Gardens platform. The brewing technique he used was 7 Hearts coiling hands, and the tea set used was the Emerald Radiance set. Before brewing the tea, he did cleanse himself and abstain from meat for a week. He had kept all of these a secret, such that even Qianlong didn't know of it. Yet, how did Zhong Laoshe find out? More importantly, to know of all of them in detail? It was said that a Grandmaster tea brewer could see through the flaws and problems within a tea just by looking, smelling, and tasting it. From there, they could offer the other party instruction, allowing the person to refine their skills. Could it be that Zhong Laoshe wasn't just a Grandmaster painter, but a Grandmaster tea brewer as well? If that were the case, if Zhong Laoshe offered him some advice, could it be possible for him to break through his bottleneck and reach an even higher level? Elder Qian trembled, agitated. Just when he was about to consult the other party on this matter, he heard Qianlong angrily howling. To dare say that the tea which grandfather brewed is a failed product, who do you think you are? Do you think I won't teach you a lesson right now? Upon hearing these words, Elder Qian's eyebrows twitched and he nearly passed out. In the way of tea, he had reached a bottleneck, and for many years, he had been stuck trying to surpass his limits. Right now, given how the other party was able to see through the mistakes in his spirit-calming tea, if he were to offer him some advice, he might be able to achieve a breakthrough. Yet, his hopes were shattered with the words of this brat. Moreover, you wish to teach a person on the level of a grandmaster in the way of tea a lesson? You unfilial brute. If not for your prejudice of this Zhong Laoshe, I wouldn't have been so biased against him. If I hadn't been so rude to him, the other party wouldn't have been so displeased. Damn it. The more he thought, the angrier he became. Shut up. Ah. Grandfather. Qianlong didn't expect his grandfather to bellow at him like that. Dumbfounded, he stood blankly on the spot. Go away, don't get in the way of us here. Waving him away, Elder Qian hurriedly stood up and walked over to Xianxia. Clasping his hands, he bowed earnestly, like a student meeting a teacher. With a respectful tone, he said, Zhong Laoshe is right, the tea I've brewed is indeed a failed product. It doesn't have the effects that a true spirit-calming tea should possess. He had no choice but to admit it. Given how the other party's words were all true, he had likely seen some problem. If he were to reject his opinion vehemently at this moment, he would simply incur the ire of the other party. If so, he would pass by this opportunity to reach greater heights. This spirit-calming tea can allow one to remain in the state of heart of tranquil water for 100 breaths. Hearing Elder Qian admit to it, a commotion broke out among the crowd. Everyone stared at the young man as though he were a monster. Especially so for Huang Yu and Bai Zun, they pulled their hair frenziedly. Wasn't Zhong Laoshe completely ignorant of the way of tea when he came? Why could he see through so much now, even making Elder Qian lower his position and admit defeat? Off to the side, Lu Zun and Wang Chao were even more so on the verge of insanity. Isn't this fellow garbage? To be a grandmaster capable of producing a painting of the 5th level at one moment, to able to impress Elder Qian in the field of way of tea in the other. Where can one find such incredible garbage? Zhong Laoshe, I hope that you can point out my mistakes so that I can correct them and not waste such precious tea leaves. After admitting that he was unable to fully unleash the properties of spirit-calming tea, Elder Qian looked at Xianxia respectfully. I have come to your Qian residence with the invitation of the 3 master teachers as a guest, yet all I've been welcomed with was contempt ever since my arrival, even to the point of being tested of my capabilities. At this, Xianxia shook his head as he glanced at the elder before him. Do you think this is the appropriate way to treat a grandmaster painter? Aye. Embarrassment flushed on Elder Qian's face. If the other party were just an ordinary noble, this matter would have no great import. But Xianxia was a grandmaster painter, and it was very likely that he was a grandmaster in the way of tea as well. It was one thing to not show a person of such identity the respect befitting of him, but to test him. This was clear contempt for him. The reputation of a master teacher mustn't be sullied, and the same could be said about grandmasters as well. Regardless of which occupation it was, reaching such a level meant that one had surpassed countless others and achieved an incredible level of mastery in the field. Even in conferred kingdoms, they were respected existences. Yet, in a moment of folly, frankly, I don't want to say much. However, on account of your sincerity, I can offer you some advice. Xianxia glanced at him thinly. Red wine has to be enjoyed in a wine glass. Even wine has its own silverware, needless to say, tea. Spirit calming tea has a calming property, but even though the Emerald Radiance set is a treasure left behind by an esteemed potter, it is hot in nature. Since heat breeds irritation, how can one remain calm? This is my first piece of advice. The way of tea is an art of tranquility. Your actions of cleansing yourself and abstaining from meat is a form of respect for the art. However, since it should be an art of tranquility, should there be a banquet for it? Given the commotion, your heart is already disturbed, so how can you brew the most perfect spirit-calming tea? This is my second piece of advice. You should keep these 2 points in mind. Perhaps this might be beneficial to your progress in the way of tea. I still have things to attend to, so I will be leaving now. Farewell. Xianxia waved and headed outside. Xianxia, please wait. Before Xianxia could step out of the hall, Elder Qian hurried forward. Xianxia, your advice has enlightened me. This is a token of my appreciation. I hope you can accept it. After which, he beckoned and a servant brought a box to him. Opening it gently, the deep fragrance of tea leaves gushed into the air. The tea leaves of spirit-calming tea. Given the quantity, 2 taels. Even considering the entirety of Xianxia Kingdom, only 3 taels are produced every year. But you want to gift 2 taels at once. Upon catching scent of the fragrance, the eyebrows of everyone here shot upward. They were all shocked by Elder Qian's gesture. This was definitely a huge gift. Importantly, even Emperor Xianxia didn't have much of a chance to drink it. Through this, it was clear to see how valuable the tea leaves were. Yet Elder Qian gifted 2 taels of tea leaves at once, an amount sufficient for one to brew more than a dozen pots. Wasn't this gesture of goodwill too generous? Looks like, even though Xianxia's advice sounded ordinary, it has enlightened Xianxia. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to offer such a generous gift to him. While they were shocked by his gesture, they also understood that a gift didn't come freely. Elder Qian's action of giving so many tea leaves to the other party meant that the other party had pointed out the fundamental errors behind the tea he had brewed, and Elder Qian had benefited greatly from his words. Without even drinking the tea, with just a single look, he was able to point out the problems, resulting in Elder Qian gifting his tea leaves to the other party willingly. How many surprises did this Xianxia hold within him? Was there still more to him that they didn't know of? Chapter 207. Returning to the academy after accepting the tea leaves, Xianxia went away without a peep. In the very first place, he didn't intend to attend this birthday banquet at all. If not for Huang Yu and Bai Zun's request, as well as for an opportunity to meet the 3 masters to ask them about the poison aura, he wouldn't have cared about Elder Qian one bit. Even if it was a funeral, he would have never came to such an event. Even though he didn't get an opportunity to ask the 3 master teachers of the matter, based on their attitude, they would likely come looking for him soon. It wouldn't be too late to ask them about it then. Since that was the case, there was no longer any purpose for Xianxia to remain there. As for why Xianxia was able to see the flaws in the tea Elder Qian brewed, the reason was simple. The moment Xianxia stepped into the hall, the other party was in the midst of brewing tea. As such, the library automatically compiled a book on it, and just by flipping through it, Xianxia would know everything about him. If not for that fellow intentionally trying to pit him against Lu Xun and siding with the latter, he wouldn't have been bothered about it and embarrassed the other party in public. You wish to make use of Lu Xun to humiliate me? What a joke. Those who try to slap my face will be sent flying with a slap of mine. It doesn't matter to me whether you are Elder Qian or whoever. There are no exceptions. Elder Qian, Your Majesty, Liu Shi, Xianxia, Xianxia, will be taking our leave as well. Upon seeing Zhongxian leave, Huang Yu and Bai Zun quickly followed behind him as well. They were the ones who brought Zhong Laosha here, and they didn't think it appropriate for them to remain here given the situation. The moment they left, the room immediately fell silent. Grandfather, that spirit-calming tea. Why did you suddenly gift so much of it? Qian Long felt indignant. Even if the advice had helped his grandfather, there shouldn't be a need for him to shower the other party with such a generous gift. They had paid a huge price to get someone to pick and process the 2 taels of tea leaves for them. It wasn't something that one could just buy with money. Even his grandfather couldn't bear to drink it on casual occasions, yet to gift it someone else like that. Just thinking of it, Qian Long felt his heart ache. Much? It isn't much at all. Glancing at his grandson, Elder Qian shook his head. Even though his grandson seemed intelligent, and he had entrusted his expectations onto him, at this moment, it seemed that his character and magnanimity were severely lacking. Elder Qian is right. 2 taels of spirit-calming tea isn't much at all. Putting aside the fact that he had offered valuable advice to Qian Laosha, just the 2 words Zhong Laosha wrote on the painting are valuable, Emperor Xianxia said. The 2 simple words, wild deer, were truly a priceless treasure. It had raised the already valuable painting of the 5th level by nearly another entire level. Even if they gifted him all of the tea leaves in the Qian residence, they would have still made a profit. Not just that, by this kind gesture, they could reduce the hostility a Grandmaster Painter felt for them, perhaps befriending him even. I have benefited greatly from Zhong Laosha's advice. Qianlong, Qiangang, I'll leave the birthday banquet to you too. I would like some time for myself to digest what I've learnt. Perhaps his words may allow my mastery in tea brewing to reach new heights. Elder Qian nodded his head before falling silent. Then we won't be imposing on Qian Laosha any longer. Liu Ling knew that the other party was inviting them to leave, so he left the hall along with Emperor Xianxia and the others. Your Majesty, we still have things to attend to, so we won't be returning with you to the royal palace. Upon leaving the Qian residence, the trio bade Emperor Xianxia farewell before leaving hurriedly. Needless to say, they were going to look for Zhong Laosha. He is truly a god among men. Seeing how even the 3 master teachers were impressed by Zhong Laosha, Emperor Xianxia commented in awe. After which, he turned to a eunuch and said, "Make preparations. I want to watch the teacher evaluation tomorrow as well." "Yes, Your Majesty," the eunuch replied. A while after the 3 master teachers and Emperor Xianxia left the Qian residence, Lu Zun and Wang Chao walked out of the mansion. The moment they left the perimeter of the residence, resentment and indignance immediately burned in their eyes. He is just a low-level teacher. Why? Why? Damn it! Damn it! Lu Zun howled loudly. The hatred in his eyes was so deep it could dye a river black. He thought that the banquet for Elder Qian would be an impetus for a breakthrough, and he would successfully become Liu Shi's apprentice. Never in his dreams did he expect such a conclusion. The fellow he had been looking down on had trampled over his pride numerous times, riling him up so much that he was about to spurt blood. The strong sense of humiliation he felt made him want to go on a rampage. He, Lu Zun, as the son of the emperor's tutor, had lived a smooth sailing life since childhood. All along, he had been the one who humiliated others. When had he ever suffered a setback of this sort? That fellow must have spent all of his effort and time studying painting and the way of tea, so his ability to impart knowledge must be bad. As long as you triumph over him in the teacher evaluation tomorrow, you should be able to return the shame to him, Wang Chao said. Even though Zhongxian was talented, it was impossible for him to be talented in all aspects. Even if he were truly talented in all aspects, given the limited time and energy a human possessed, he would have to spend a bulk of his time researching painting and the way of tea, thus neglecting his education abilities. The duo were still rather confident in their abilities as teachers, so they didn't believe that they would still lose to Zhongxian here. I must win the teacher evaluation tomorrow. Hearing his words, Lu Zun nodded his head. He had been humiliated enough today. He couldn't afford to lose to the other party anymore. Wang Chao, don't you know that apothecary? I would like to buy a few pills to give it a try, Clenching his fists tightly, Lu Xun turned to look at his friend. Buy a few pills? You mean you want to? Upon recall, Wang Chao was horrified. He quickly shook his head. You can't do it. Even though that can raise your cultivation within a short period of time, it will damage the students' foundations, making it hard for them to improve in the future. I can't care about it anymore. I must win tomorrow. There's no retreat for me now. As long as I win and become Liu Shi's apprentice, I will be able to become a master teacher within 10 years. By then, I can easily repair the trauma they will suffer. In fact, by then, granting them a life of luxury wouldn't mean anything to me. Gritting his teeth, Lu Xun's eyes contained a frenzied gleam. This. Wang Chao hesitated. Wang Chao knew about his friend's talents. He was just a step away from becoming an official painter, and the moment he broke through this bottleneck, he would be eligible to take the master teacher examination. Given the experience he had accumulated as a teacher in the past few years, as well as his study on master teachers, it wouldn't be a problem for him to become a master teacher within 10 years. Once he became a master teacher, it wouldn't be a difficult task to make up for these students' losses. He could easily provide them with a life of luxury then, and repairing their trauma wouldn't be impossible whatsoever. All right, we've no time to waste. It's fortunate we haven't returned the 3 million which we borrowed from Emperor Shenzui. That should be sufficient for us to buy 5 pills. Let's go and buy them now. I'm going to make them raise a storm tomorrow. Not only will I triumph over Zhongxian, I will make everyone know that in the Hongqian Academy, I, Lu Xun, am invincible. Flinging his sleeves, Lu Xun roared. Okay, I'll go take a look now. Knowing that Lu Xun's mind was made up and that it was impossible for him to convince him otherwise, Wang Chao nodded his head. What Lu Xun said made sense. There was no retreat at this point. They had offended Xianxia in the royal palace, making it nigh impossible for them to become his apprentice. The 3 master teachers had set their sights on Zhongxian. If the 2 of them were to lose, there wouldn't be any chance for them anymore. Their only hope was the teacher evaluation tomorrow. They had to make everyone know that Lu Xun was the true star teacher in Hongqian Academy, the #1 teacher of the entire Xianxia kingdom. And that Zhongxian was nothing at all. He wasn't even qualified to vie with them. Weren't you going to give this painting to Elder Qian? Why did it become Liu Shi's present instead? Before Zhongxian could get too far, Huang Yu and Bai Zun caught up with him. Seated in the carriage, Zhongxian suddenly recalled the matter and asked. Back then, while Huang Yu and Bai Zun were competing over the ink daylily canvas, Zhongxian suddenly produced paintings of the 5th level, and the pair immediately bought Zhongxian's works instead. Back then, it seemed that they had intended to buy his painting to present it to another as a gift, so he was curious why it became a gift from Liu Shi instead. Also, where was the painting Bai Zun had bought? Actually, the reason why I asked for the ink daylily canvas was to help Liu Shi prepare a present for his teacher. Thus, it is natural that he was the one who presented it to him, Huang Yu said. As a junior, there's no need for me to present such a valuable present to Elder Qian even if I attended his birthday banquet. Ah! Hearing Huang Yu's words, Zhongxian immediately understood what was going on. Indeed. As a junior, even if she visited Elder Qian, she only had to prepare a novelty of some sort. There was no need for her to present a treasure like the ink daylily canvas. Naturally, she had done it in Liu Shi's stead. As such, it was natural for the gift to be given to Elder Qian through Liu Shi's hands. What about you? As Xianxia's student, there should be no need for you to prepare a gift in his stead, right? Bai Zun's relationship with Xianxia was different from the relationship Huang Yu had with Liu Shi. The latter was in an apprenticeship whereas the former was just a student. Even though the 2 of them sounded alike, the standing and identity of the 2 were on 2 different levels. Huang Yu might have to look for a birthday present in Liu Shi's stead, but as a student, there shouldn't be any need for Bai Zun to do the same. Actually, Bai Zun scratched his head in embarrassment. It is because Xiao Yu wanted the ink daylily canvas that I asked for it as well. This way, I would have a reason to be with her. As for why I bought the painting from Master Zhong, it is for my father. He likes painting a lot as well. Zhongxian was speechless. It turned out that this fellow only wanted the ink daylily canvas to flirt with Huang Yu. Just the thought of it was ridiculous. However, his choice wasn't wrong. Only by competing with Huang Yu could he meet her every day. This way, it would make it easier for him to court her as well. Just that, even though Bai Zun was interested in Huang Yu, the same could not be said about the latter. Most likely, the fellow was destined for heartbreak. Bai Zun was just a student of Xianxia. There was no need for him to present a painting of the 5th level to Elder Qian. As an esteemed noble of the country, it wasn't difficult for him to find another suitable gift. As a result, Elder Qian only had the painting of the wild deer, and the other one was still in Bai Zun's possession. Master Zhong, I thought you didn't know anything about the way of tea. Then how did you? After a while, when Hongqian Academy was already in sight, Huang Yu couldn't help but ask. That fellow had clearly shown his ignorance in the subject earlier, and it didn't seem like he was faking it. Yet how did he manage to point out the mistakes in Qianlong's and Elder Qian's ways of tea, even completely impressing Elder Qian? It's true that I didn't know anything about it. Zhong Xian nodded his head. Even though there were many books regarding the way of tea in his head, he hadn't had the chance to browse through them yet. As a result, it wasn't a lie to say that he didn't know anything about the topic. Then, Huang Yu and Bai Zun were confused. If you don't know anything about the subject, how could you speak so confidently and stump them with your words? Shouldn't you come up with a better lie than that? I just happened to flip through a few books on the way of tea in the past and freely spoke of them. It was a coincidence that I managed to guess them correctly. Zhong Xian replied casually. Freely spoke of them. Bai Zun and Huang Yu stared at each other speechless. Brother, if you don't want to tell us the truth, just say so. You won't fool anyone with that ridiculous excuse of yours. Do the two of us look like fools to you? Since we've arrived at the academy, I'll be bidding you two farewell. Even though the duo clearly didn't believe his words, Zhong Xian couldn't be bothered to explain to them. With a smile, Zhong Xian hopped off the carriage. He had finally arrived at Hongqian Academy. After a few days of absence, he was curious to see how far Zhao Ya and the others had progressed. Chapter 208. Inc. The Hongqian Academy was bustling with people. The freshman tournament was about to begin. 10,000 students had been enrolled in the academy, and after half a month of study, it was time to check on the results of their training. Who do you think will be first place in the tournament this time? I still think it's the person who got number 1 during the entrance examinations. Right after enrollment, his cultivation reached Fighter 2 Dan. A month has passed since then, so he should be much stronger by now. The freshman tournament isn't just reliant on strength. Besides, even if he was strong before his enrollment, it doesn't mean that he will still be strong now. I've heard that the few new students under Lu Laosha who are going to participate in the teacher evaluation have all reached Fighter 2 Dan. Furthermore, they weren't his direct disciples. It will be hard to tell whether he can beat them. But that guy is a student of Lu Laosha too, right? Seems like even if first place isn't that guy, it should be someone under Lu Laosha's tutelage. Of course. Of the top 500 in the entrance examination, at least 300 of them have come under Lu Laosha's tutelage. Even if they don't want to get first place, there must be someone that can match up to them first. By the way, who do you think will win in the teacher evaluation? Zhongxian Laosha or Lu Laosha? Win? Are you stupid? Does that question even need to be asked? In what way is Zhongxian Laosha qualified to compete against Lu Laosha? Even if the Education Bureau had intentionally suppressed him, causing his teacher qualification examination results to be reflected wrong, his result in the past year wasn't terrific either. That's true. See, to tell you the truth, I heard that the fellow intentionally provoked Lu Laosha to make fame for himself. After causing his students' cultivation to go berserk, he still dares to challenge Lu Laosha to a teacher evaluation. I really don't know how a person's skin can be so thick. The news that I've heard is completely different from yours. I heard that Zhongxian Laosha is a noble person, and has already reached Pishua realm. In order to uphold the Academy's prestige, he had been keeping mum about the matter, tolerating all of the insults by himself. I've also heard that. Rumors have it that his student was afflicted with innate sealed meridians, and he intentionally caused his student's cultivation to go berserk so that he could surpass his limits. That person is Zhao Yangfeng. I've met him a few times. Not only did Zhong Laoshe help resolve his problem, he even helped him break through his cultivation. Right now, he's already a Fighter 2 Dan expert. Grateful to Zhong Laoshe, he wanted to go under his tutelage once more. This event incurred Lu Laoshe wrath, resulting in Lu Laoshe challenging Zhong Laoshe to the teacher evaluation. Are you serious? Is that true? It's definitely true. I heard this info from a friend I'm familiar with. All kinds of discussions and theories floated around the place. Some said that Zhong Xian overestimated himself, while others said that he was forced to accept the challenge. At this point, it was hard to tell what the truth was anymore. Due to Yao Han's intentional spreading of the news of the Education Bureau, nearly everyone in the academy was aware of it now. However, most of the students were still hesitant to believe it. After all, Lu Zun's reputation in the academy was simply too great. Even though Zhong Xian had cleansed himself of the grief from scoring a 0 in the teacher qualification examination, it was hard for him to establish a towering image in the hearts of the students within such a short period of time. However, Zhong Xian wasn't bothered by this matter at all. In any case, tomorrow's teacher evaluation would determine everything. Rather than wasting his time on this matter, he might as well focus on raising the strength of those students of his. Soon he arrived at his classroom. Zhong Laoshe, Zhao Ya and the others were all present. Each of them was spirited and emitted a powerful aura. Not bad. Seeing the status of his students, Zhong Xian nodded his head in satisfaction. He was glad that he didn't waste his efforts. Regardless of whether it was Zhao Ya, Zheng Yang, Wang Ying, Liu Yang, or Yuan Dao, each of them had improved significantly. They were completely different from how they were half a month ago. Not only this, even the students who had just listened in on the lessons Wang Dao, Wang Yang, and Zhao Yanfeng had also improved significantly. Even though Zhong Xian didn't conduct many lessons, every word in his lecture pointed straight toward the essence of cultivation. Learning under him helped them further comprehend cultivation as a topic, and naturally, this helped them raise their cultivation faster. What is that? After praising them, just when Zhong Xian was about to start meeting them one by one, Zhong Xian suddenly caught sight of something in the corner of the room. There were a few pots placed by the side and the contents inside them were all pitch black. Perplexed, Zhong Xian asked them. He clearly remembered not seeing such an object in the classroom before. Zhong Laoshe, it is ink. Wang Ying's face flushed as she said softly. Ink. Zhong Xian was confused. Why would there be a pot of ink in the classroom? What he taught was cultivation, not culture. There was no need for him or the students to paint beautiful ink paintings or write elegant calligraphy, so there was no reason for these objects to be in the classroom. That. Upon hearing his question, the several students fell into a silence of awkwardness. What's wrong? Could there be a reason behind this? Yuan Dao, speak. Seeing the bizarre expressions on everyone's faces, Zhong Xian's eyebrows shot up. Yuan Dao didn't expect Zhong Laoshe to single him out and his face immediately scrunched up as though he had eaten a bitter gourd. After a moment of hesitation, he said, it's like that. Due to the awakening of Zhao Ya Xiaojia's pure yin body, she has become even more beautiful. As such, many students wish to court her. Court. Only then did Zhong Xian realize the change in Zhao Ya's appearance from the awakening of the pure yin body. Regardless of whether it was her looks or her nature, she seemed completely different from before. Compared to the domineering young mistress in the past, she was now an elegant young lady. In terms of appearance, she was superior even to Shun by Ru. It was no wonder that other students started to admire and approach her. So if someone comes to find her, what is the purpose of the ink? Zhong Xian was even more perplexed. Even if Zhao Ya became prettier and other men came to pester her, it would suffice to chase them away. In the academy, it was unlikely for them to go too far. Besides, the strength of his students had risen greatly. If someone tried to harass Zhao Ya, they would likely leave with a swollen face. By no means were Zheng Yang, Liu Yang, and Yuan Dao people who would allow others to climb over their head. It was impossible for them to watch obediently as others tried to poach Xianxia over to their sides. We have chased away all of the students, but Yuan Dao scratched his head as he laughed awkwardly. But recently, 3 perverted old men had been loitering around the classroom. Based on their movements, we wouldn't be able to defeat them. So we prepared some ink to pour on them. It's rumored that ink can vanquish lust, and after they had been splashed by this ink, those 3 perverted old men should feel embarrassed to continue loitering here. Perverted old men. Zhongxian was perplexed. Are you sure that they aren't teachers of the academy? I'm sure that they aren't. I know all of the teachers in the school, but there aren't any teachers with appearances like theirs. Just by looking at their leering faces, I'm sure that they are up to no good. The one who spoke this time was Xianxia. I kept seeing them hiding in the corner in the past few days, pointing to Xiaoye and Wang Ying, discussing them. Sometimes, they even nodded their heads while smiling. I am sure that they are up to no good. Pointing to Xiaoye and Wang Ying and discussing them? When did such shameless fellows appear in the academy? From the confidence in his student's tone, Zhongxian didn't think that he was lying. His forehead wrinkled. 4 old men to be peeping on and discussing 16, 17-year-old girls. They were indeed lecherous. All right. Zhongxian also agreed with their opinions that the old men were up to no good and nodded his head. You all should be on guard. Xiaoye and Wang Ying, don't go out by yourselves for the next few days. If you meet those 3 old men again, feel free to use the ink to splash them. Since they were able to get into the academy, they probably had esteemed identities. It was already embarrassing for them to be stalking young girls in public, and if they were to be splashed with ink, they should probably understand how shameful their actions were and leave of their own accord. Of course, he would try to remain in the academy for the next 2 days. If the old men were to strike once more, he didn't mind teaching them a lesson personally. Hooray for Zhong Laoshi! I've already said that Zhong Laoshi is an understanding person and he wouldn't blame us for that. Upon hearing Zhongxian approving their actions, the students cheered happily. All right, let's get down to business. Yuan Dao, follow me in first. I'll take a look at how your cultivation is going. The teacher evaluation was tomorrow, so Zhongxian needed a clear idea of the current strength of his students by today. At the same time, he could offer them some instruction. Perhaps, through this, they would improve a bit more before the duel with Luzon students. Even if it was just a mild improvement, it might just be the determining factor in the battle. The duo walked into the partitioned room and Yuan Dao closed the door behind him. After which, Zhongxian gestured. Show me your battle technique. Yes. Yuan Dao nodded his head. His fist shot out, making the wind howl. The might behind his fist was astonishing. Even though his cultivation didn't improve greatly, still in Fighter 1 Danjushi Realm Intermediate stage, his strength was astounding. That punch of his had caused a sonic boom. This strength. Zhongxian was surprised. His ability to produce a sonic boom with his fists meant that his strength and defensive ability had reached astonishing levels. Even Fighter 3 Danjushi Realm cultivators might find it difficult to endure a punch with that power. As expected of the Emperor's bloodline, even though only 10% of it has been awakened, it is still able to induce such an incredible growth in strength and defense. The unique constitutions were indeed extraordinary, befitting of their enormous reputations. Even though Yuan Dao's cultivation was still the lowest among his 5 students, his offensive and defensive abilities were extremely fearsome. Your cultivation still isn't good enough. Whenever you cultivate and gather spiritual energy, you are too focused on the absorption of spiritual energy, thus failing to align your physical condition along with it. I will impart you with a cultivation method now. As long as you cultivate with it, it shouldn't be difficult for you to reach Jushi Realm Advanced stage today, said Zhongxian, after taking a single look. After the other party had executed his punching routine, a new book on Yuan Dao formed in his head. After reading through the contents within, Zhongxian gained a clear idea of the problems and flaws in Yuan Dao's cultivation. Yes. Yuan Dao hurriedly nodded his head and turned his attention to memorizing the cultivation method. It didn't take him long before he remembered the entire formula. Okay, Call Zhao Wei in." After instructing Yuan Dao on what he should do, Zhongxian waved him out. Soon, Zhao Wei walked in. The pure yin body was indeed incredible. Upon its awakening, Zhao Wei exuded the disposition of a fairy from the upper realms who had descended onto the mortal world. Not to mention, Zhao Wei was originally a beautiful maiden. With the augmentation from her constitution, every single movement of hers exuded indescribable grace. Given her looks and nature, any male students matched against her will immediately admit his defeat upon seeing her smile. The heavens were indeed unfair. Given Zhao Wei's outer appearance, if her opponent was a male, he might not even try to lay his hands on her. "Show me your battle technique." "Yes." Zhao Wei nodded her head, clenched her fist, and punched out. "Hoo hoo hoo." The sound of wind filled the entire room. "Your strength." After a book was formed in the library, Zhongxian flipped it open and took a look. The next instant, his eyes widened in disbelief. How could this be possible? Huala! Boom! What are you all doing? The nerve! Just as Zhongxian was about to speak, he heard the sound of a pot shattering. After which, furious roars resounded. What's going on? Frowning, Zhongxian immediately walked out of the room. Chapter 209. Poison Hall. It was already chaotic outside. Xianxia was wielding a spear whereas Wang Ying was in a battle stance. Meanwhile Yuan Dao was carrying the tables and chairs in the classroom, glaring fiercely at the intruders. At the entrance of the classroom, ink was splattered all over the floor. There were 3 fellows who were drenched black standing at the entrance, fuming. Clearly, just when they were about to enter, Zhongxian's students immediately threw ink at them. "Xianxia, these are the 3 shameless men who have been peeping on us every day. To still be peeping on girls at your age, don't you feel embarrassed?" Upon seeing Zhongxian walk out, Yuan Dao and Liu Yang hurriedly shouted at the trio. However, before they could finish speaking, they saw the mouth of the usually calm Xianxia twitch, then his entire body staggered, and it seemed as though he was about to fall to the ground. "Liu Shi, Zhuangxia, Xianxia, why are you all here?" Zhongxian was on the verge of tears. Back then, when he heard his students say that there were 3 lecherous old men hiding by the corner peeping on them, Zhongxian took their words as truth. Never in his wildest dreams could he have expected that it would be the 3 master teachers. As master teachers, they could just walk in through the front door to look for me. Disguising themselves and hiding in the corner, what were they up to? Due to that, a misunderstanding arose and they were splattered with ink, causing this awkward situation. Not just that, they were even criticized as shameless and lecherous. Liu Shi, Zhuangxia, Xianxia. Hearing the words that Zhonglaoxia uttered, Xingyang, Zhao Wei, and the others staggered. The 3 master teachers arriving at the capital was a huge affair, and the students in Hongqian Academy had already long since heard of the event. Naturally, they also knew of their names as well. Initially, they thought that the few old men who had come to peep on them were just lewd perverts who were lusting over Zhao Wei's beauty. To think that it would actually be the famous 3 master teachers in the capital. Weren't master teachers supposed to be prestigious figures who were difficult to even catch a glimpse of? Why did they suddenly appear here and stalk them? Zhonglaoxia, are you mistaken? Where can one find master teachers who act so pervertedly, wearing these kinds of clothes and hiding in the corner, afraid of us noticing them? Xingyang couldn't help from saying. Mistaken. Zhongxian nearly choked on his spit. The hell, what was with the students he was teaching? Other people usually brought trouble to their father and their grandfather. Yet his students were clearly intent on preparing his grave for him. The other party were all master teachers. With a single stomp of their legs, even Emperor Shanzui would cower in fear. Yet, not only did you all not apologize after splattering ink on them, you even said that they were perverted. Perverted your head. Frankly, I really want you all to admit that it was your fault. This way, the problem can be settled easily. How do you expect me to deal with such a situation? Zhongxian felt so depressed that he could cry. On the other hand, the 3 master teachers felt so infuriated that their lips were twitching non-stop. They felt so humiliated by this affair that the thought of suicide passed through their minds. Right after leaving Elder Qian's residence, they immediately rushed to the academy and headed to Zhong Xian's classroom. Yet the moment they walked in, they saw pitch-black ink flying right at them. Stunned by the sight before them, they didn't even have the time to react. The hell is going on? We are master teachers. Regardless of where we go, we are influential figures who are held in high regard. Yet why were we splashed with ink here? Why are we treated as perverts here? If word spreads, how can we face others? Xianxia, I am certain that it is the three of them. In the past 2 days, they have been loitering around the classroom, peeping on us. I find it hard to believe that they don't have any bad intentions in mind. Afraid that Xianxia might not believe Xianxia's words, Wang Ying added on. I can also vouch for it. Even if they were reduced to ashes, I would recognize them. Liu Yang said decisively. Shut your traps. Seeing how these students were so unreliable and getting worse with their words, Zhong Xian couldn't stand it any longer. After bellowing at his students, he mustered his courage and walked up. Master teachers, I apologize for bringing you all trouble. I will teach them a lesson later. There's no need to worry about it. The ignorant aren't guilty. Forget it, it's our mistake as well. Liu Ling, Zhuangxian, and Zheng Fei squeezed out smiles on their crying faces. Yuan Dao, Xingyang, hurry up and buy some clothes for the 3 master teachers. Seeing that the trio didn't intend to pursue this matter, Zhong Xian heaved a sigh of relief. Kicking Yuan Dao and Xingyang's rears, he roared. Yes, yes. At this moment, everyone finally understood that these 3 lecherous old men were true master teachers. Their faces immediately turned green with fear. There wasn't anyone in this world who didn't know how fearsome a master teacher was. Yet they threw ink in the faces of 3 master teachers instantly, reducing them to such states. They truly felt like crying now. But it really wasn't intentional. Who could have thought that noble master teachers would disguise themselves and loiter around their classroom to peep at them, even talking about them? Master teachers, have you been hanging around here for the past few days? Asked Zhong Xian after getting a towel for the trio to wipe away the ink from their faces. As master teachers, instead of indulging yourselves in the luxuries in the royal palace, why would you all come here? Even if you want to take me as your apprentice, upon knowing that I'm not here, there shouldn't be any reason for you all to be hanging around my students, talking about them. We. Hearing Zhong Xian's straightforward words, the 3 master teachers' mouths opened, but they couldn't say a single word due to awkwardness. What could they say? That they'd heard of his deeds, and that they wanted to see it for themselves? Peeping on his students to gather information on him. They would have to abandon their prestige as master teachers to say such words. I have an old friend in Hongqian Academy and he happened to be free the past few days. So we've been coming around to see him. Also, the atmosphere is not bad, so we thought that it would be good to spend our time here, the quick-witted Zheng Fei said with a smile. Atmosphere is not bad. Zhong Xian looked at them with strangely. He had seen people who could speak lies with a straight face, but he had never seen someone who could spout such an obvious lie so brazenly. My classroom is at the very corner of the academy, the worst location in the compound. How inexperienced of the world must you be to think that the atmosphere is not bad? Besides, do you have friends in Hongqian Academy? Why haven't I heard of it? If you really have friends here, you would have come much earlier than this. Oh, is that the case? My students are still inexperienced. That's why they thought that you were up to no good. Please pay them no heed. In order to prevent the atmosphere from turning awkward, Zhong Xian didn't expose the blatant lie. Soon, Yuan Dao and Xingyang returned with new clothes. After the 3 master teachers changed into them, they felt much more comfortable. Xianxia, you should probably know the reason why we came to look for you. Regaining the disposition of a master teacher, Liu Ling looked at the young man before him with a smile. After the past few days of observation, they were extremely pleased with both Xianxia and his students. They would have truly won the lottery if they could accept an apprentice of such caliber under their wings. Knowing that the 3 of them were true master teachers, the several students immediately focused all of their attention onto the conversation between them to see what was going on.
I can roughly guess.
The 3 master teachers hope to take me in as your apprentice, right? Knowing that he had to face this sooner or later, Xianxia dived right into the subject.
Apprentice.
The 3 master teachers want to accept Xianxia as their apprentice. If Xianxia accepts it, he would be an assistant master teacher. Upon hearing those words, the faces of Xianxia and the others immediately flushed with excitement. The dream of all teachers was to become a master teacher, and the requirement of being an apprentice of a master teacher eventually turned out to be the barrier preventing them from attaining their dream. Only when one became a master teacher's apprentice would one have the chance to become a master teacher. Instead of finding Lu Zunlaoxia, the 3 master teachers came straight for Xianxia.
How could they not be excited?
That's right. The 3 of us have such an intention. You can feel free to choose whomever you wish to join. Upon seeing that the other party understood the situation, Liu Ling nodded his head with satisfaction. Feel free to choose whomever he wishes to join. His students were so excited they wanted to jump up and down. That's to say that all 3 of the master teachers had their sights set on Xianxia.
This.
Xianxia scratched his head embarrassed.
May I reject the offer?
Putong.
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 Xianxia and the others fell to the floor.
For someone to reject becoming the apprentice of a master teacher.
Surely we heard wrong.
Reject. Unable to believe their ears, Liu Ling and the others were stunned.
Yes.
Xianxia nodded his head. Possessing the library of Heaven's Path, Xianxia was destined for great heights. Honestly, Xianxia found Liu Ling and the others nowhere near good enough. We understand that we're being a little too rash on the matter, so you need not hurry to give us your reply. How about this? We'll give you some time to consider the matter. It isn't too late to reply to us tomorrow. Not expecting the other party to reject him, Liu Ling knew that he had been a little rash on this matter and smiled awkwardly. It's all right to answer tomorrow as well. Give it a good thought today. Without the identity of an assistant master teacher and a master teacher's recommendation, it is impossible for one to take the master teacher examination, Xianxia added.
Indeed.
Given your capability and your talents, it is a waste if you don't become a master teacher.
Zheng Fei chirped in as well.
Oh, I will think over the matter then.
Xianxia nodded his head.
Xianxia had decided to take the master teacher examination, but he was reluctant to acknowledge any of these 3 fellows as his teacher. It wasn't for any other reason than because these 3 had been trying to become Xianxia's students. They were giving their all to become his students while trying to take Xianxia as their student. What in the world was this?
That's good.
We'll come over tomorrow then. Seeing that the other party didn't directly reject them, they heaved sighs of relief. Right, Liu Shi, Xianxia, and Liu Shi, I happen to have a question to ask you 3. Seeing that the other party didn't persist on the matter, Xianxia thought of the poison aura in his body and opened his mouth to ask the question.
Oh.
Feel free to speak of whatever it is that's on your mind. As long as it's something we know of, we'll try our best to help you. Liu Ling stroked his beard. Since that's the case, I would like to ask where I can find books on poison. The more, the better, Xianxia spoke. As Xianxia had no idea what the poison aura in his body was, it would be hard for him to ask the master teachers about it. Also, it might also result in unnecessary trouble, so he might as well just ask them for books. In any case, as long as there were sufficient books on poison through the library of Heaven's Path, Xianxia should be able to easily find out what poison it was, and solving the problem would be simple then. Books regarding poison. Not expecting the young man before them to ask such a question, the 3 master teachers exchanged glances. In the field of poison, no one can surpass the Poison Hall. After hesitating for a moment, Liu Ling said this with a grim expression. Poison Hall. Xianxia was confused. Even though there were many books regarding poison in the Qianxian Kingdom book collection vault, there wasn't any record of such a location. Thus, this was the first time Xianxia was hearing the term as well. Yeah, Poison Hall. Liu Ling nodded his head. Chapter 210. Teacher Acknowledgement. Actually, the Poison Hall refers to the Poison Master Guild. Poison Master Guild. Xianxia blinked his eyes blankly. Since it's a guild, it should be called Poison Master Guild, just like the Apothecary Guild, Blacksmith Guild, and Teachers Guild. Why would it be called the Poison Hall? The name sounded eerie. Do you feel like since it's a guild, it should just name itself as a guild just like the others? Are you wondering why it would be called the bizarre name of Poison Hall? Seeing through Xianxia's doubts, Liu Ling explained, actually, this has something to do with the identity of Poison Masters. Poison Masters are adept in utilizing poison. Often, their means can get through the guard of others, inducing massive fear against them. Reviling their underhanded means, they are classified in the lower 9 paths. On the other hand, due to their fearsome means, countless experts of the continent allied together to deal with the Poison Master Guild. Back then, when the guild was destroyed, countless poison masters died in the ordeal. Afterwards, even though they had managed to pass down their heritage, in fear of the same thing occurring to them once more, they dared not appear in the world. As a result, they secretly formed the Poison Hall and hid amid the mountains and rivers. This is precisely the reason why, even though there are poison masters, they are hard to find within the kingdom. If one has to speak of a place which has the most books on poison, it has to be here. It's just that even I cannot confirm its exact location. Liu Ling shook his head. Ah. Xianxia smiled wryly. In the end, Liu Ling's words turned out to be pointless. What Xianxia needed now were books on poison. If he was unable to find the Poison Hall, there wasn't any point listening to all of this. Playing with poison is extremely dangerous. Many poison masters, in order to concoct more potent poisons, often use their own bodies as test subjects. As such, very few of them live for long. Very few people want to come into contact with poison without sufficient reason. Xianxia, may I know what you intend to do by asking for books of this kind? The 3 master teachers were perplexed. Due to the lethal nature of poison, unless one possessed a great hatred for someone stronger than them and needed the strength of poison to exact their vengeance, very few people would dabble in it. Even if people didn't try the poison they concocted for themselves, coming into contact with poison daily would also result in minute doses of it being absorbed into their body daily. Eventually, it would accumulate, so most poison masters couldn't live for long. This had also caused most of their personalities to be eccentric. It could be said that just speaking of this occupation was sufficient to leave people apprehensive. Very few people would be willing to come into contact with it. This Xianxia refused to become their apprentice and asked them about this matter instead. The master teachers couldn't stop from feeling curious about this matter. I'm just asking out of curiosity. Xianxia smiled. He couldn't speak about the matter of him being poisoned. Otherwise, it would lead to questions like why isn't the poison acting up? Or why is your Xianxia so pure? And eventually, it might expose the existence of the Library of Heaven's Path. This item was his greatest secret, and he would never tell anyone about it. Seeing that the other party was unwilling to say anything about the matter, Liu Ling asked no further either. After pondering for a moment, he added, actually, even though I don't know the exact location of the Poison Hall, I've heard that there is a Poison Hall branch in the Red Lotus Ridge, which is in the extreme northwest of Tier 1 Qianwu Kingdom. Of course, this is only hearsay. As for whether there is truly a branch there, I can't really confirm it. Tier 1 Qianwu Kingdom. Xianxia nodded his head. A book regarding the country appeared in his head. If they had a 1-star master teacher backing the country, it would be eligible to be ranked as a Tier 2 kingdom. Given how Qianxian Kingdom had no master teachers at all, it could only be considered as an unranked kingdom. Qianwu Kingdom was the strongest kingdom of the surrounding territories, reaching the level of Tier 1. It was even higher ranked than the Beiwu Kingdom Liu Ling came from. It was said that there was a 2-star master teacher backing the country. This country wasn't too far from Qianxian Kingdom. They could even be considered as close neighbors since they both bordered the Red Lotus Ridge. Other than the Poison Hall, the Master Teacher Pavilion also has books on all occupations. Plenty of them are on poison too. Even though the quantity and quality can't be compared to the former, the size of its collection far exceeds that of some countries. If you only wish to gain an understanding of the occupation, you should visit the Master Teacher Pavilion to take a look. But of course, if you wish to enter the book collection vault, you have to first pass the Master Teacher examination.
Xianxia smiled.
It seemed like he hadn't given up on the idea of having Xianxia come under him as his apprentice. Master Teacher Pavilion.
Yeah.
Even though master teachers come into the Teachers Guild in name, due to their prestigious identity, the guild isn't capable of interfering in their affairs. Thus, another autonomous organization was created to govern the master teachers and conduct examinations. It's known as the Master Teacher Pavilion. Xianxia added, the Master Teacher Pavilion is actually just like any other guild. The treasures and secret manuals within are only accessible by master teachers. Its book collection vault contains the knowledge of countless occupations, so there's surely books regarding poison there.
Oh. Xianxia nodded his head.
It seemed that if he wasn't able to find the poison hall, becoming a master teacher and entering the book collection vault of the Master Teacher Pavilion could solve his current problem too. All right, we hope that you can give this matter more thought. Given your talent, as long as you study diligently, you will surely be able to become a master teacher one day. You shouldn't think too much about other things. The four of them chatted a while longer, but upon seeing that the young man seemed to be truly disinterested in becoming their apprentice, Liu Ling offered Xianxia advice before leaving with the other two. They knew that it was best to slowly convince a talented teacher like Xianxia instead of pressuring him. Perhaps he might truly change his mind within a couple of days. If they were to keep persistently questioning him about the matter, it might have the opposite effect instead. After the trio left, the several students immediately ran up to Xianxia.
Admiration glimmered in their eyes. Did you see that?
Other teachers would definitely lose their mind upon hearing that a master teacher wanted to accept them as their student, yet our Xianxia simply rejected 3 master teachers calmly.
Isn't he too incredible?
Don't give me those looks. I haven't settled the score with you all from the recent event.
Xianxia's complexion darkened.
These brats had actually said that the 3 master teachers were lecherous peeping toms. It was fortunate that it was only ink and the other party didn't intend to pursue the matter. Otherwise, even Xianxia would be stumped by this problem. After rebuking them, he went ahead to guide them one by one. After all was said and done, Xianxia heaved a sigh of satisfaction. Even though these fellows were mischievous and unreliable, they were extremely serious in their training, not slacking off in the least. Other than Yuan Dao, his other students had all reached Fighter 2 Dan Dantian realm. Initially, he thought that the one who would improve the most would be Xingyang, but contrary to his expectations, it turned out to be the weak-looking Wang Ying. In just a short few days, her cultivation had soared. Not only did she break through the Fighter 2 Dan barrier, she reached the pinnacle of Fighter 2 Dan intermediate stage, and she was currently just a step away from reaching advanced stage. The rate of her improvement was nothing short of shocking. Even though this lass may seem airheaded on the surface and she blushed easily when speaking with others, she actually possessed an extraordinarily determined will. When she hardened her resolve to accomplish something, not even Zhao Wei would be able to best her. His other students had also done well. However, that was to be expected. After all, he had imparted them with the cultivation techniques and battle techniques compiled by the library. If they were unable to achieve such a level of improvement, it would truly be embarrassing. Through the library, Xianxia could tell that his 5 students had been secretly cultivating a joint attack formation. Taking a single look, there weren't any disadvantages to the formation. Instead, it augmented their combined fighting power. As long as they weren't fooling around, Xianxia wouldn't interfere in their affairs. Nurturing a student was different from raising a plant or a pet. A teacher ought to guide them onto the right path and impart them knowledge to help with their cultivation. Otherwise, if a teacher restricted them in whatever they did, they would lose their independence, becoming nothing more than puppets. It was just like how the rote learning method in Xianxia's previous life had killed the creativity of numerous children, mass-producing adults who were only capable of testing well. Right after finishing his lecture, Xianxia would leave the classroom. In fact, there were times he would stay out for several days. While there were compelling reasons for his absence, Xianxia wasn't being irresponsible. Rather, he was worried that if he kept interfering in their training, it might impede them from becoming true experts in the future. A true teacher should impart knowledge and guide students, but not restrain them. In order to take the master teacher examination, I need to become an apprentice. But I don't want to acknowledge Liu Ling and the others as my teacher. After instructing his students one by one, Xianxia fell into a dilemma once more. Apprentice, master teacher, apprentice. It felt cyclical, leaving Xianxia with a splitting headache. Right, I can choose to become my own apprentice instead. After being conflicted for a period of time, a thought abruptly appeared in Xianxia's mind. Other than Xianxia, wasn't he Xianxia as well? In the minds of others, Xianxia was a master teacher as well. If Xianxia became his apprentice, wasn't he also qualified to take the master teacher examination? Even if Xianxia was unable to provide a recommendation letter for him, he could ask Liu Ling and the others to do so in his place. When Xianxia asks for a favor, who wouldn't comply? I'll do it that way then. Chuckling softly, Xianxia left the academy and headed toward his mansion. If he wanted to become Xianxia's apprentice, Xianxia had to speak. Leaving the academy, Liu Ling and the others smiled bitterly at their failure of being unable to take Xianxia as their apprentice. Putting aside a remote country like Qianxian Kingdom, even in Beiwu Kingdom and Hanwu Kingdom, as long as they showed the slightest bit of intention of taking an apprentice, countless star teachers would come fighting for the position. Yet they had revealed their intentions clearly to this fellow, only to be rejected by him. They very much so wondered what was in his head. To be able to reach an astounding level of mastery in painting, pill forging, and the way of tea at such a young age, it is natural for him to be complacent. Liu Ling commented, remembering the varied and incredible feats the other party had done. Indeed. We need not hurry. Tomorrow is the teacher evaluation between him and Lu Zun. Perhaps he's thinking of achieving a flawless victory before coming under us. This way, it would be much more justified and glorious, Xianxia guessed upon remembering the event. That's possible. The other two nodded their heads in unison. The reason for his rejection might be due to this matter as well. Otherwise, even if he was unwilling to become their student, would he be willing to give up on the opportunity to become eligible for the master teacher examination? This was the pursuit of all teachers in the world. It was just like becoming an expert in the path of cultivation. It was something that no one in the occupation would be able to resist. We must come over to watch tomorrow's duel. However, before that, should we deal with our personal affairs first? Liu Ling suddenly said. You mean, acknowledging Xianxia as our teacher? Xianxia's eyes lit up. It was impossible for a person to only have a single master in their entire life. This logic applied to master teachers too. Upon reaching higher levels, one could acknowledge another teacher to learn from them. Indeed. Since Xianxia was able to easily help Shen Hong and Zheng Fei achieve breakthroughs, it is clear that his methods are much more advanced than ours. If we can acknowledge him as our teacher, we might be able to break through our bottleneck and gain the qualification to become 2-star master teachers. In fact, we might even pass with a single attempt with his guidance. The more Liu Ling said, the brighter his eyes shone. A good teacher would be beneficial to their future development. After the past few incidents, Xianxia had fully displayed his extraordinary capabilities. If they could acknowledge him as their teacher, they might be able to reach greater heights, reaching the level in their dreams, but beyond their reach. Thank you for listening to PandaAudioBooks. If you love what you hear and want to support my work, check out the PayPal link in the description. Every bit helps. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notifications bell to stay updated with all our latest audiobook chapters. We'll see you in the next one.